with the rise of monsters that appear and attack the world. Therefore, to save humanity, associations of warriors with great abilities then form new associations that are made to become world leaders. The ultimate goal is to get wealth and honor from which many families are formed. These families then produce warriors called hunters. However, families who only wanted power began to appear among the families. Out of them all, there is one family known for its ambition, the sword Baek family. The motto of the family is strength above all. Baek Woojin, who is a member of the family, is now injured helplessly because he is weaker than the other family members. Baek Woojin is the youngest son of a very famous swordsman family with the surname Baek. All members of the clan have an extraordinary talent for using a sword, but unfortunately, this does not apply to Woojin. Due to his inability to wield a sword, his clan members looked down on him a lot and decided to expel the incompetent Woojin. This sword family Baek agrees to expel him from the family, even though he is a member of the family. The sad thing was, almost all of the family members approved of Woojin's expulsion. Even the family patriot who was his father agreed. Baek Woojin had to be forced to leave the family. Baek Woojin didn't expect that even the only one he respected all his life agreed to his expulsion with an official letter that had been stamped by the Baek family, stating that he agreed to the expulsion with some conditions. The first stipulation was to remove the root of power in the vein on his right arm that was used to swing the sword, and the second was to numb the aura in his heart. Of course, Woojin didn't agree with that. Even though he was considered trash, he who didn't have talent, he had tried harder, more than anyone. He did everything in his power to honor the family name. But what power, because of the difference in ability with family members who will expel him? Even though he continues to struggle, he still ends up losing the veins in his arms and also the grooves in his heart. 1 year later, after the incident, there was a great disaster in the whole city. Things are getting worse and worse for Baek's life. Buildings were destroyed, and monsters roamed the streets freely and killed everyone they saw. The victims continued to lie in a pile, while the people who were still alive continued to try to escape from the pursuit of the monster. So did Woojin. 1 year after being kicked out by the Baek family, he continues to experience terrible things, and this moment is the pinnacle. The first appearance of the disaster occurred when Woojin was walking. A crack began to appear in the Korean sky. The gap gave off light and grew bigger until the sky seemed to split open. After that, out hundreds of bloodthirsty monsters. This terrifying and sudden disaster could not have even been predicted by the association. As soon as the monsters appeared, chaos ensued. Amidst the chaos, Woojin ran to find a safe place for him. But when he entered an alley, the pungent smell of blood immediately pierced his nose. In front of him, a lot of corpses lying strewn. Without him noticing, a monster was standing behind him. A smiling giant ogre looked at him. Fortunately, Woojin immediately noticed the presence of the monster, and when the monster was about to attack him, Woojin could immediately jump and avoid it. Woojin realized the ogre's attack power was enormous. Woojin doubted his current state. Can he survive until the association arrives to help him? But even though he hesitated, he still grabbed an iron pipe lying beside him to hold off the monster as long as possible, because even if he did run away, it wouldn't be long before the ogre could catch up to it and attack it. Woojin dodged one attack, but when he saw his arms with scars, Woojin didn't know that without the root veins in his arms, it would affect his attacks as well as the aura in his heart, which had already been annihilated. The only thing he could do was hold on until the association arrived. When he ran, the monster chased him and managed to attack him. Woojin was slammed and fell, but Woojin didn't give up easily. He couldn't die like that. He must avenge himself on the Baek family who abandoned him. Woojin got back up. It ran toward the ogre, and when it was right in front of it, it jumped, preparing to attack it with the iron in its hand. But when he was in the air, he even remembered the painful thing, namely the words of his family when he was thrown away. Words that told him that this earth was not a place for people without talent, nor was it a place for a family. The memory made Woojin lose focus. He unknowingly let go of his pipe and ended up in the hands of monsters. As the monster began to destroy its body, Woojin made one request. If he was given one chance, he would change everything. The wish came true. He activated an ability that made him walk the path of 1,000 swords. Woojin earned the title of the owner of the magic sword. A while later, Woojin opened his eyes. But he was very surprised because he was still alive. He should have died at the hands of monsters. Woojin was very confused by the situation. Is he dreaming? Is it heaven? Woojin detected his physical condition. He checked the veins on his hands, but that started to surprise him. He didn't see the wounds on his hands. Woojin also realized that he was now in the room he occupied with the Baek family before. Also, he could faintly feel the power from the roots and aura in his body. The sound of the alarm snapped him out of his thoughts. The date on his cell phone shows the date. When he looked at his cell phone, realized that he had returned to 10 years ago, the time when he was still in the Baek family that had previously destroyed him. Tears flowed down his face to face this fact. After he lost everything, he had to return to that cursed family, but could not continue to drag on in his sadness. He slapped his cheek to calm himself down, and thought about how he could get back there. This state was too real to be called a dream. When thinking about that, suddenly from behind, someone said, "Slap yourself in the face! Are you out of your mind?" When Woojin turned around, he saw the figure of a large man with long dark skin. The man said, "Oh, now you see me? What time is this little inexperienced brat, huh? Whoever you are, the contract has been made. My name is Blackstone, and I am the greatest magic sword that shook the world." Woojin was surprised by the sudden introduction of the man. He couldn't digest the man's words. Say, what contract? Plus a magic sword? He had never been involved in such a strange thing, especially since it was the year 2020. What happened at this time? Noticing Woojin, who was confused, Black said, "Normally contractors would come up with something, but this gentleman is quite calm, it seems. Your head will explode any minute, so it will clear up a bit. Our souls have been connected because of the magic sword contract. You have become my master, and I am in charge of your development, so speak it out." Woojin flinched because Baek's earlier words weren't due to the magic sword contract, nor was the man who would be in charge of its development. Woojin's face status became cold and turned flat. Woojin turned and stepped into his bed. "He says I was dreaming too. I know it." Seeing that Woojin was about to return to the blanket, Black asked, "What were you doing, or did you understand what you said earlier?" "Well, maybe this is similar to a flashback before dying, huh? Maybe something like that." Baek Woojin is good at preparing all these jokes. Seeing her cold response, Black said, "Hey, I'm not a human like you. I can only be seen by you. I know it looks like it doesn't make sense, but try saying the status too so you'll understand later." Woojin answered, "Or do you think I'm so stupid that I can close again?" Black smiled. He said, "Is his brother the one who made him like this? The person you want to pay for your embarrassment? The person you want to beat is that Baek? If so, it will help achieve just that." According to Black's words, Woojin was surprised he got up from his sleep. He said, "Is that possible?" Black replied, "Of course it's possible. No one can surpass you. That's why the contract was made, even though there are conditions. You have to trust me." Hearing the offer, Woojin thought, was he telling the truth? This whole situation is very far-fetched, but this is the reality. This kind of opportunity was something he wanted. Considering he had been humiliated to the point of losing everything, this was a golden opportunity to get revenge on the Baek family. Woojin smiled. He said, "I don't fully believe everything you said. If you can, then I will believe you." After saying that, a status window popped up in front of him. But what surprised him was that when he saw a very, very low status that was already below average, Black had expected that. Talent, mentality, everything looks pathetic. But Woojin was surprised again because of the Blackstone that he now saw in the future. His body turned small like a child. Black explains, "This is the reason I am trying to change to be stronger, because you are so weak that I look like a child. To be sure, I'll show her my true form, which is a sword of power, which you possess is reflected in my appearance." Woojin couldn't blink because he saw Black turning into a zombie. Right before his eyes, the impossible happened. Just a few seconds, Black said that. "Now trust me, right? To regain my original power, I have to level you up. That is our contract." But Woojin replied, "Ridiculous. I don't have any talent. He even died before you could even get real power." Black replies, "That's the reason I like you more. It's not as fun to meet an already strong contractor directly. It's more fun to level up someone who doesn't have your skills yet. Watching you suffer through hardships to reach your goal, the hard work and effort you put in step by step with your sweat drops. I've also been printing in the void for more so 200 years. I have no intention of taking the easy path." Woojin thought, might he help him to give himself a second chance? Woojin smiled. He said, "All right, Black. I will carry out the magic sword contract with you." Black answered, "Then let's take the first step." Suddenly a quest window appeared in front of Woojin that said, "Stamina is a national strength. A swordsman who is not ready to wield a sword through basic training will condition his body so that he can wield a sword. The reward is 300 points. Also, his stamina and physique will increase. Woojin could only be amazed by what he saw. We can believe, can experience exactly like a video game. Black said, "Do you get the point? It will display a method for your growth. The form of communication to contractors is not always like that. Some are in the form of a collection of books, and some are in the form of scrolls of letters or something. Although the form is different, the method remains the same. If you follow what I say, even trash like you can become a genius." But Woojin found it strange, he asked. "But why was it that I contracted from so many people? People like me can be found everywhere." Black answered the reason why he was chosen as the contractor and the will of the magic sword. Even though there was a lot that Woojin wanted to ask, Black immediately told him to start his quest. A few moments later, Woojin immediately did it. He ran into the practice area. Black always accompanies him. He would also comment on if there was something wrong with his training, because he was constantly commented on. Woojin could only be annoyed. In the middle of the day, Black explained, "What did you say, sir? If you could become strong just by running, everyone in this world would become a legend. All you have to do is challenge yourself, so stop saying such useless things. Correct your posture and blah blah." With that, Woojin kept running. Black thought no matter how he looked at it, it was very interesting. Why is he so low but his mental level so high? He has a strong passion for something. Looks like it's related to that Baek Woojin. At that thought, Baek was shocked to see the hatred that filled his entire body. There's no way a 12-year-old kid would have that much hatred in his body. Black believes there is something wrong with his master. Woojin had finished running. From his practice, he said, "Running like that was quite difficult, but I had to do it. I almost died before I even defied my limits. Is it really useful, or am I wasting my energy? I did what you said, Black. I believe in something self-esteem with my qualities. However, that is already the limit of my stamina. If I don't do it right, I will lose my efficiency. But if I overdo it, I'll get hurt. Can you see my step? From your characteristics to your temperament, I'm connected to your soul so I can see through everything. This is the result of your training. Your stamina and physique have improved. You said go away yourself that you have no talent. But it's wrong. To have pride in mentality, which is talent, and the possibility of hearing Black's words." Woojin blushed. He was overjoyed to hear someone praise him for the first time. Because he was in a good mood, Woojin intended to train again even though Black prevented him. By saying it would injure his body, perhaps saying, "Trust me, my body is fine." Instead, he felt better. He also felt this feeling for the first time. He thought, no, it's not reasonable to raise the start by half a day. Is fasting really like this? Again stopping Woojin, Woojin said, "Why did you have to stop?" "The quest says to increase my stats," Black answered. His stat changes are now unpredictable, and no one knows what will happen to his body. Woojin asked, "Don't you know why when I increased you gave me the quest? And also you said that our souls are connected, right?" Black replied, "All I did was connect you to the quest system." Woojin said, Then who gave the quest?" Black replies, "I don't know either. My soul is in the sword made by someone. Since then I have learned many sword skills and training methods. Also, I want to ask you something. The part I think is weird. I feel an unusual hatred from you. That much emotion that can't possibly grow in a 15-year-old kid." Woojin's steps stopped. He thought he was right too. Black said that he was connected. Then does he know I came back from the future? If I tell him I might be able to get help. He spent hundreds of years as a spirit. It is possible. When Woojin was about to tell him, suddenly from behind someone called his name. The person said, "Woojin, oh it did. After playing with the sword so many times, are you now a diamond?" Knowing who it was just by hearing his voice before Woojin returned. He is the one who gave her the thing that can't be forgotten, Baek Woojin. Baek Woojin, who said, "Shall we see the results of your feeble training?" Woojin, who had finished his practice, was amazed by the presence of Baek Woojin there. Baek Woojin, who felt himself being ignored, said, "Hey, I'm here, but you still don't bow your head? Get down before I kill you." Woojin, who was still traumatized, immediately bowed his head politely. Seeing that Baek Woojin laughed, "Our cute family. Do you only listen when you are sworn in?" Baek Woojin arrogantly put the wooden sword he was carrying above his head. He said, "But what are you doing? Shouldn't you be practicing? Are you giving up?" Black was surprised by the man's arbitrary attitude. He asked who was this loser who looked like a catfish. Woojin answered, "He's my Hyung, the sixth son, Baek Woojin." Baek said, "Oh, so this is the person you mentioned when you came to the contract with me, right? Boring. Looks like you'll catch up in no time, that too if you follow my training properly." Black floated behind the Hojo. Seeing this ridiculous thing, of course, made him laugh out loud. The clueless Woojin said, "Do you want to be hit that bad, huh?" But suddenly a woman approached them and said, "Baek, shut up." It turns out that the person is the second child of the direct descendant of the sword Baek Woojin family. "I heard that you will be holding an aura manifestation ceremony this afternoon. Father will be attending, so don't disappoint him." Woojin seemed to have forgotten because of that. He thought that today was the aura manifestation ceremony, and so many days, why do I have to regress on an important day like this? After that one shouted, "The Patriot entered." The family members there immediately lined up and welcomed the arrival of the man. Patriot walks past them all. After Patriot passes, Black asks, "So that's your dad, huh?" Woojin answered, "Yes." "What do you think about my dad?" Baek said. "To think that there is someone strong in this world. I seem to understand what you're saying, and it's not just him. There are many strong people here." "Ah, but the Hoje is not included. But this is your only quest, so don't be too hasty." Black showed a notification that because Woojin had seen the Blackstone, he had received additional points. Black looks angry and annoyed with the modification. He tried to hit Woojin while saying, "Who is this? How can you accept a gift like this?" Woojin replied, "I know why." Black fell prostrate in frustration. He says, "Ouch, my dignity as a sword. I did not expect it to collapse so soon." Woojin replied, "Never mind, you have no pride since you became a child like that. Also, I got 500 points. Now what should I upgrade?" Black said, "I see for now raise your stamina and physique to 20 points. Then those two stats will be at the lowest rank. You will definitely be able to see the difference. Then just save the rest of the points." Woojin also followed Black's direction and increased his status and stamina to 20 points. After that, suddenly Woojin felt excruciating pain all over his body. His whole body felt like it was being stabbed. A moment later, all the pain disappeared along with the numbness in his heart. Woojin's physical body has been modified according to his rank. The instant physical rank has increased to the lowest rank, Woojin said. "The unbearable pain that I just felt, but suddenly disappeared." Black replied, "Do you understand now how weak your body is? Luckily, you can endure the change." Woojin said, "What if I can't bear it?" Black replies, "You did bear it, so it's fine." Woojin looked scared. What would happen to her if she couldn't bear it? A few moments passed after that. It was time for Woojin to attend Aura's manifestation ceremony at the Baek family's residence hall, and the other 6 children were already there. The patriarch said, "Finally, the time had come for the final direct lineage Aura manifestation ceremony. The first child couldn't do it. You all know why. The children of direct descent who were there included the second child, Baek, third child, Baek, fourth child, Baek, fifth child, Baek, Sohee." Patriarch continued, "There was no need for further delay." Woojin started. Woojin immediately stepped forward and held the white ball that was floating right in front of everyone. The aura manifestation ceremony before the regression probably couldn't manifest. At that age, after being treated like trash for so long, Woojin finally manifested it at the age of 24. And even so, it was a useless white aura. At this moment, Woojin thought, "I can do it." But he was surprised by a notification that appeared in front of him. "My quest is to increase my stamina and strength, right?" Black said. "Right. And since you even benefit from accepting the quest, it looks like you will be able to complete it quickly, so you must remember that the journey of 1,000 miles starts from the first." Woojin stretches his body again. He looks like he's warming up before sports. Woojin said, "You said that because I benefited from the quest flight. I was able to complete it faster, so I would complete it before the aura ceremony." Black said, "What kind of bullshit is that? No one has ever been able to finish it in one day. What do you think are you doing now?" He did not heed Black's words. He had started running. While running, Woojin said, "Didn't you say that if I finish the quest then I will be strong enough and can catch up with that bastard in no time, right? I will start now. Black says you are crazy. If you cross your feelings, you will get hurt stupid." But suddenly Woojin stopped running because, in front of him, there was a notification informing him that he had received a special title. The effect of that special bone is his stats and stamina increase by 2 points. Now his physique and stamina become 15 points. Looking very surprised at that, he managed to increase his stats in one go because his stats and stamina had already reached 15 points, so the quest was cleared. Black couldn't believe what he was seeing. He asked, "What are you doing?" I used to meet a lot of crazy bastards as my previous owner, but this is the first time I've met someone like you, Woojin. Did you know that you would become like this because you completed the quest? Woojin got the reward, which was 300 points, and a first step title of a quest. The title effects all still increased by 1 point. Woojin said, "I'm not a fortune teller." Woojin looked surprised by the notification in front of his eyes mentioning that his closeness with Black had increased. Black shyly said, "Can't you tell by looking at her? It says about your closeness to me." Woojin replied, "Huh? I should level up too?" Black says because it has something to do with our contract. Hearing that, Woojin thought even if it was a system suitable for this era, isn't this like a dating simulation in a game? If I can't get closer to him, then I can't borrow his strength like that? Did I really just die and now I'm dreaming? He thought about it. But Black suddenly says, "Great, let's see this as long as I have a contractor." The quest required Woojin to activate aura, not through his heart. The benefit of accepting the quest was activating a unique aura, and the reward was getting 8 points. Also getting the ability of archery sensitivity, as well as a drastic increase in concentration. Seeing Woojin, who had doubts about his quest, Black said, "Just trust me and do the quest. You already have an aura compatible with magic, right? It will be different from most people in your world, but experts usually walk their own path." Woojin replied, "So you mean I should accept the quest and get a unique aura? Let's give it a try, since Quest said it would help me grow stronger. Shape does it according to the cake." Due to the benefits of accepting the quest, Woojin would activate a unique aura for him. Suddenly from the white ball came out a black aura that surprised everyone there. Seeing that strange thing, he said, "What is this? Black color? The energy that was in this bastard's aura?" Baek's second son immediately ran towards Woojin. When he was right behind Woojin, he jumped and took out his sword while swinging his sword. He said, "Although I don't know how you got demon energy, but if aura contains demonic energy, I will kill you right now." But just before Yun Kyung's attack hit Woojin, his sword was held by the third son Baek Sehun. While holding it, he said, "What are you doing? Get out of my way if you don't want to die. Also, that black aura must be sound energy. He must have gotten the help of power from the demon family." Woojin looked completely surprised. "I believe in Black, who made a contract with me," he said, "magic sword." Woojin Black, who was seen observing the situation there. Yun Kyung of course insists. She says, "I've never heard of humans using black energy in this entire world." Energy getting serious, he let out his aura and said, "If you don't step aside, I will finish you off first." But suddenly the patriarch said, "What are you guys doing now? When will I allow you to take your swords?" Patria's words suddenly made everyone there look warned. He coughed up blood. The patriarch said, "When will I allow you to kill your own brother?" Yun Kyung's body shook with fear. She replied, "I'm sorry, I was too hasty." The patriarch continued, "See it with your own eyes." It was pure boundless mana, which was different from the energy and multi-family of demons like Seongjun said. "The color is different. That's the power that comes from wear with trained aura. I know that you have a deep grudge against the demon family, but with such a careless attitude you will eventually have your head knocked off by the family. For the sin of having drawn your sword, I told you to meditate for 6 months. I understand. Does he take care of the baby? I won't be able to stand up to a Baek with proper clothing and a rock-solid achievement system to destroy this house. I have to be stronger than everyone." Suddenly the patriarch said, "Woojin, I also have never seen a black aura before, but I feel a great energy from you. Congrats." Woojin determined his head and said, "Yes, thank you, Patriot." Patriot asks, "But why are you keeping all this?" The patriarch's words shocked everyone who was there. They clapped in unison. Woojin thought, as I expected, Patria knew that I released my mana by using it. I should be happy and think the answer well. If I don't give him a reasonable answer, I'm sure Father will destroy my aura. Then Woojin replied, "It's because I'm different. I'm different from my brothers, and I didn't inherit the Baek family's talent. My body is weak, and I haven't even activated my heart ability. I had trouble using and sensing mana with my heart, so I made my own way to save my manga." The patriarch said, "So you will follow the will of those who were eliminated? Trash that can't train their heart but save their mana? You are crazy?" With 2 important points, that's Woojin replied. "Yes, I know about that too. But I will become stronger than everyone with my own method. I will not say much about myself. I will prove myself with the results later." The Patria laughed out loud at Woojin's words. He said, "You were very arrogant, but that made me like you more. Well, prove yourself and defeat your 7 brothers and reach the highest position in the good sword family. But if you can't do it, You will die or live a bad life. Woojin replied, just watch me. The patriarch said, all right, today's aura manifestation ceremony will end here. A few moments passed after that. The third child, Xiangyun, was seen checking Woojin's body condition. He said, I was really surprised when you were there. It's quite a surprise that you invested aura. But what's even more surprising is that black aura, and as long as that happens, Uni wants to kill you. And now that I think about it, you trained your aura well today. Your response to mana becomes smoother. How did you manage to make a body like this so quickly? During the last inspection, your body was not like this. Woojin replied, I didn't practice swordsmanship and only practiced increasing my stamina, besides saying how unusual for someone who had always practiced swordsmanship to do such a thing. But still, I don't know if it's possible to do this much stamina training in 1 week. But, yeah, keep doing the exercises you're doing now. Looks like it suits you, he replies. Yes, I will do my best, especially considering what I had told Dad before. I want to say, oh yeah, take this and that. The Kamal stone that I got from the previous mission will really stabilize your aura. Use it later. I want to throw the item to Woojin. Woojin looked surprised by the item. After holding the item, Woojin said, wow, Kamal stone, isn't this very expensive? I replied that it was okay. Take it because you have practiced hard. Think of it as a gift to you. Woojin smiled and said, thank you. Suddenly, after Woojin left, someone called Woojin. That person said, hey, you are so arrogant in front of father. You're showing off for successfully releasing aura, right? Woojin turned around, because the person was holding his shoulder. Baek pushed Woojin with his hand. He said, even if you release your aura, you will only be a loser. So why not complain a little with this Hyungmu? Woojin replied, I have nothing to talk to you about. You really don't understand what I'm trying to say? Just follow me while I'm still being good. If you don't want to get beaten up and cry like a baby like last Sunday, you better follow my orders. But a notification appeared behind which required Woojin to beat Baek. The prize is 300 points, another surprise gift. Black, who saw that, said, as the name suggests, surprise quests can happen sometimes. But the prize was beyond expectation. It didn't look bad to try it. Woojin thought it might have been different if I was still in my past life, but now it might be worth a try. Maybe I was too kind to you until now. Woojin replied, I should have said that. Hearing Woojin's ridicule, Nu-hoon immediately hit Woojin while saying, damn you, huh? Woojin couldn't dodge the attack and fell backwards. After Woojin fell, Baek immediately grabbed Woojin's head. He said, decide before we get to the warehouse. Do you want me to beat you to death or die from being bullied? A few moments passed. Nu-hoon and Woojin were already in the drinks warehouse. He says you said some interesting things before. What did you say in front of Papa? You will become stronger than anyone using your method? There's no way that's going to happen. Shut up, is it, or is everything about this world, huh? Black, who was beside Woojin, asked. I wonder if you think you can beat him. Woojin replied, of course, why do you think I'm acting like this? But now he's just a cocky little rascal. Nu-hoon couldn't hold back his anger. He said, I think I have to teach you a little about the bitterness of this world. A few days ago you cried and asked me to stop hitting you. He immediately beat Woojin repeatedly. Woojin was in the corner until he fell. He said, look at you. Do you think you can catch up with me with your lousy skills? When Baek wanted to stomp, Woojin held his foot and immediately got up from the fall. He kicked Baek right where he thought Hojin could attack him like that. But when Baek intends to counterattack, his body suddenly collapses. Blurry vision, dizzy, he said. How could that be? You have brain failure from being hit in the jaw, that's why. Learning where it hurt to be hit, Woojin grabbed Nu-hoon's hair. He said, okay, now I'll tell you what pain is. A few moments passed. Woojin looked very proud because he had defeated Nu-hoon and completed his surprise quest. Black looked surprised by Woojin, who was so proud of himself like that. He also didn't expect that Woojin could beat Nu-hoon. Black said you were waiting for the right moment to attack? I thought you would die from being beaten up like that. Then what about the people who lay it? Don't you think he'll come to us again? After he woke up, Woojin replied, he won't do it. He also has a high ego, and also a lot of things he's afraid of. I don't think he will come to us soon. He must be afraid that his defeat will be known by everyone. I'm sure things will calm down for a while. While stepping out of the warehouse, Black asked, Baek, I want to ask something a swordsman we saw yesterday. It seems that everyone in your family has a meaning surrounding their heart. Black, holding his stomach, then continued, why don't you store mana in that energy core of yours? He found it easier to focus on storing his mana in one place. Black said, you also accepted the quest without a second thought. Why is that? Woojin replied, it was because the only solution. Black says, what's the solution? Woojin replied. If I hesitated in front of my father like I did in my previous life, he would destroy my energy core. Black said, so you were given a quest that gave you an aura when you deposited a house in your energy core? He replied. Maybe it was because the aura I had in my previous life was useless. I'm glad that I got something better this time. Woojin's words suddenly surprised Black. He said, Wait, Woojin, what did you just say? Woojin replied. If I hesitated in front of my father like I was in the past, my father would destroy my energy core. It seems pointless to point it out now. I'll tell you eventually, Black. Actually, I have lived until I was 25 years old. Then I died. Then I regressed back to my 15-year-old body. I was born as a family disgrace and grew up without anyone caring about me. I never received proper attention from my family, and as a result, I was constantly beaten. Then I was kicked out of the family at the age of 25. I lost the blood-killing root on my arm as well as my aura. It was then that a huge crack appeared in heaven and earth when I died. At first, Blackstone was very surprised by Woojin's story, but Black could feel and see what Woojin had experienced in the past. Black said, Oh, so that's true. Woojin said, Yes. As soon as I regressed, I met you. Black replies, It's all starting to make sense now. So that's why you can accept the quest easily. Then what is your goal? You even have such powerful allies, which you didn't have in your past life. Do you have a life goal that you want to achieve? Woojin clenched his fist. He said, My misfortune, the sword family of the Baek region, all started here. After Woojin said his purpose in life, Black laughed and said, I know you want that. I like your answer. That's how my master should be. And also let me tell you that your regression has nothing to do with our contract. But it did happen. You will not only be stronger than those guys we talked about when we first met. I will make you stronger than your family, your father, and all the resources in this world. Is that possible? Black said it depends on what you do, but such a goal of yours is unattainable unless you work hard like crazy. Woojin replied, I was prepared for that. I was crazy from the start. Black said it's good that you have to be like that. Baek Woojin, as a magic sword, I will tell you this again as my owner. You will become the strongest in the world. A few moments passed. After that, in his room, Middle Woojin was confused about choosing the gift card from the previous surprise quest. The gift card floated around him. Seeing the confused Woojin, Black said, This was a surprise quest reward. Aura's gift still requires more training before you can get it. The prize is indeed random because the quest appears suddenly. You only need to choose one of the cards, Woojin answered. First the status, then the quest, and now the gacha reward. It really feels like some kind of game. Black said, The front and back of the card look the same. You can only know what it is once you see it. A bit of info for you. My previous master only got trash. Every time he has decided to choose a card while pointing at the card, he says, I will choose this one. After Woojin chose his card, the other cards immediately disappeared, and a sparkling light shot out from the card he chose. Then the card turned into a ball, Woojin said. A Beckel ball? But suddenly Black shouted that wasn't a kickball. It was a pill that permanently increased your mana sensitivity. How did a person like you obtain such a precious item? Black looked very surprised by that, but Woojin seemed irritated at being called out like that. He replied, Hey, what do you mean? You are too much, you know? Which sensitivity is more important? What's that? Black said, Don't you guys use terms like that here? If you increase your mana sensitivity, you will be able to feel aura more easily. If you eat this pill, your aura growth will increase several times. Woojin looked at his bio, then he glanced at Black and said, I'm asking this just in case, but if I take this pill, there won't be any other side effects, right? Black screamed some kind of bullshit. What was that? This is a valuable item that has no side effects at all. Woojin replied, You know how I have trauma in terms of growth? Black said, like when you first leveled up? It's because your body condition is so bad and weak, the fact is like that. Woojin replied, That's true. But how come your words are so annoying? Woojin ate it because there would be no side effects. Woojin ate the pill. Then he said, I don't feel any change. Does this pill really have any benefit? Black replied that it was because your mana sensitivity was too low. The more you grow, the more the effects, so don't worry. So I don't feel anything because my mana sensitivity is too low, huh? Black says you did well today, take rest. I will teach you how to gather mana tomorrow. Woojin replied, Why wait until tomorrow? Let's do it now. Seeing the impatient Woojin, Black said, You crazy bastard, you need to rest even when you're training. Woojin was already prepared with his training. He said, Didn't you say that skin recovery is 5 times faster? If you understand what I'm saying, then stop yelling and help me practice. Unbeknownst to Woojin, someone was watching him from a tree. So across the room, that person is Moon Jio from the Dark Sword Squad. After watching Woojin from afar, now he was reporting it to Patria. He says, I have an incident I have to report. Patriot says, an incident? Tell me. He replied, Young Master Woojin has defeated Young Master Nu-hoon. Even though they didn't use swords, they were still fighting. The Patriarch said, Didn't Woojin even know how to use his aura properly? He answered, At first Young Master Nu-won had one-sidedly beaten Young I-2 Woojin. Young Master Woojin was on the defensive and then waited for Young Master Myunghan to turn things around. Patria smiled and said that it seemed that Nu-hoon was underestimating Woojin. He was defeated because of his arrogance. Now she replied, After she woke up, she went to her room and hasn't come out since. The Patriot said, You coward, I didn't even ask him to contemplate in solitude. How sad. Then what about Woojin? Answered he was also the same. He remained in his room. So far I don't know the details, but he seems to be practicing. The Patriarch said, He must be training his mana. I guess I'll be bored for a while. But something interesting has happened here. Ju-hyung replied, Ready, Patriot. After that, Jung left the patriarchal room. The Patriarch thought, All right, Woojin, I'll set the stage for you. A few moments passed. The next day, Woojin was still in his room. Woojin asked Black, You said that if I want to open the aura of the quest you gave, I need to stabilize my mana, right? And I thought about this yesterday, but it looks like there's an easier way around this. Black replied, What easier way would you do? Woojin held a hammer in his right hand, while his left hand placed a stone in front of him. Woojin said, Now I know how to collect mana. I need to try using it. Black replied, What do you plan to do with the hammer? Woojin said, Of course, to do this. Woojin smashed his hammer into the stone, which shattered the item into pieces. Black replied, What are you doing? I know you really hate the Baek sword family, but wasn't that a gift from your brother? What are you talking about? I like Song-hyun, you know? I'm doing this because it's the best way to use stone. The usual method of using Kima stone is to hold it while practicing. But look, where is this from stone? If you break the Kima stone in a closed room, the condensed mana will spread only in that room. In this state, I will train my aura and absorb the mana in the air. Black looks surprised by that. All this time, Woojin said, I have to focus and try to breathe with this mana. Woojin immediately meditated, because Woojin had absorbed a large amount of mana. His mana stats had increased by 5 points since he had used the chemos for the first time. Woojin got a 200-point reward. Seeing the notification, Black asked, Didn't you say Chemistone is famous? Why is there a notification you're the first to use it? Woojin replied. It was probably because the method I just used was the correct way to use it. The system doesn't consider what other people do as how to use it properly. Black says you are lucky you are very goofy, but also smart. Woojin replied, I guess my aura will grow by itself without doing anything. Black says yes, your aura has grown a lot, thanks to that my boundaries have been lifted. A notification appears saying the first Blackstone seal has been removed. Along with that notification, Black turned into a dagger. Woojin said, Does that mean you become a weapon as a whole? Black replied, If you want, you can use me as a weapon. Woojin said, Yes, I remember now. Your true form was a sword, right? Black replied that he would be fully able to use his powers when Woojin regained all of my powers. I will not become a dagger like this, but an object. Woojin immediately held and tried. Swinging the sword, he said, This is the first time I wield a sword after coming back to life. Black replied, Did you feel it? Suddenly a black aura enveloped his blade. Woojin replied, his aura leaking out. Black says, Do you understand now why I'm called a magic sword? The stronger the master, the stronger I am too. You need to be at a certain level to stably use my power. Woojin felt pain in his hand. He said, Oh, it hurts. Stop. Because Woojin couldn't hold on anymore, he had to use his other hand to help him remove his sword. Black says with great power comes great responsibility. So that the first one that was repealed didn't even take out half of my abilities, which means we still have a very long way to go. Woojin looked out of breath, sweat dripping off his face. He says, Impossible, I can't even swing it. Holding it properly is already very difficult. Black replied, Yes, for now, if you don't need to worry that it's developing now. Also, other benefits have been unlocked. Black snapped his fingers. A notification popped up telling him as a boon for breaking the first seal. Woojin could now access his inventory. Black explains that inventory is like a bag. You can put your items in the inventory that is in your aura. Smiling happily, he answered, "Ah, it's like an upgrade item." Black said the space you can use right now is only the size of a small room. The more seals you open, the more space you can use. Woojin replied, "You are a really good Blackstone. That means I have to train like crazy until I can use you properly." Black said, "Yes, you are right. You have to train like crazy. I'm not just any sword after all." Then the status window is opened. This quest isn't finished yet, even though I have an aura. Woojin looked confused because after checking his status, there were still quests he hadn't completed. Black says it's probably because your mana isn't enough to use aura. Woojin replied, "If that's the case, then my priority is to finish what I haven't finished yet." To the patriarch who was with his son said, "What's wrong with your face?" Seeing Young Hoon, who was nervous, the patriarch said back, "I'm asking you." Myung Hoon certainly can't hide anything in front of the patriarch. Nu-un thought patriarch must have known that he lost to Woojin. He replied, "This was an injury I received from Woojin when I let my guard down. If I face him properly, I can definitely defeat him." Patriot said, "You were beaten and passed out, and now you are saying that because you were careless. Are you going to reason like that?" Again he replied, "That's my apologies." "What did you do after being beaten by your youngest brother?" Myung-won replied, "I'm trying to get information on what he might do." Patriarch said, "Information? I thought you were just letting your guard down. Do you really need information to be able to defeat your youngest brother? Is it necessary to borrow a sword?" He answered, "Ah yes, I'm sure I saw Woojin receiving something from Seo-hyun. If only I knew what it was." Patriarch cut her off. Patria said, "Enough! You have fallen into those selfish and useless ways of yours. If so, excuse me." Before Young Hoon set foot, the patriarch suddenly said, "How about making him give up? The motto of the Baek sword family is nothing new." Taken aback by her words, he turned around and replied, "Strength above all, obedience to orders above all." Patria smiled. He said, "Yes, that's right. Step on the baby cat and make him give up. Then who knows, step by step, you might get closer to patriarchal position." His face turned serious. He replied, "I'll prove it myself." A while passed after that. Woojin and Black looked out through the window. Black said, "He's done that by appointment." Woojin replied, "Yes, it is possible." Black said, "Didn't you say he wouldn't be looking for us this soon, right?" Woojin replied, "Father must have done something." It turned out that outside the room, Woojin was seen standing. Woojin so seriously said, "Even in my past life, Father always provoked my brothers to fight." With her personality like that, Father must have said something to her. Black replied, "Yes, he was beaten by his sister. If I were your father, I would have said something to him too." Woojin said, "Besides, Dad might ask, why would he just keep quiet, especially by the youngest brother like? That Baek would always come to see me after he was lectured by Father." Black replied, That means we might be fighting him again soon. What a wonderful family full of people ready to fight. Isn't this our chance we can beat the environment to smithereens and make it kneel at our feet? I have to really teach him a lesson this time." Seeing Woojin excited like that, Black thought, "Is this why they say discipline from parents is important?" Black said. "But OMG, you better practice than focus on that bastard." Woojin replied, "All right, Aura's training with my energy core seems to be working out pretty well for me." Black said, "Concentrate again. You are doing much better than when you started." Woojin concentrated with his meditation. Black said, "Don't focus on mana flow, but create a path to escape mana. Mana needs to flow not only into your heart, but throughout your body. Focus your mana energy. That is the training method I will give you. This is the aura chain training method." In his meditation, Woojin thought, "This feeling, I can feel his mana throbbing like a waterfall. I've felt mana in my previous life, but nothing like this. So this is energy core practice. I can feel mana not only within my body but around me as well. This is how it feels to have a meaning completely settled within my body. But what is the feeling of the electrified? Is this the giant that Blackstone was talking about? He looks familiar, like the Black Store itself." Woojin opened his eyes, he said, "Is it already night?" Black replies, "You did fine, but you are distracted by your thoughts. But yes, you did well." A notification popped up notifying Woojin had learned the light aura training method. Woojin had been stably pairing his mana. Then from him, Woojin could now train his mana and aura using the aura chain training method. Looking dejected, he said his mana was stable. "Then that means I completed the quest." Quest completion notification appears. The quote reward is Aura Black Wine. It also gets 400 coins. I did! My aura finally. Black looked surprised. He thought the way to learn the initial training method was so fast. Woojin again received an additional reward notification. Because it made Blackstone amazed at the notification, Black said, "What kind of talk is this? Since when did I wonder?" Woojin said, "Ha ha ha, you look like that." Now Black tries to be more astonished in the future, even if on purpose. Black said, "Damn it. Normally the system doesn't work like this." Black thought, but what was more strange was the memory that Woojin saw. A few moments passed after that. Woojin was checking his overall stats. After checking the stats, he asked Black, "You taught the Platinuous method?" "Yes, that's right," Woojin said. "Then hope might come from a person named Rosado." Black replied, "This is the first time I've heard of that name, but since it is the first time in your world you have obtained an extremely precious aura." Woojin said, "Yes, I think so too. Usually my luck is so bad." Black replied, "Then it's probably thanks to me. I've always been known to have great luck." Black replied, "But you progressed much faster than expected." Woojin said this was only the beginning. "Then how should I use these 600 points?" Black replies, "You should try and raise all your stats to a low level. Something special will happen. When all your stats have been boosted to a low level, if that's the case, this is what I should improve first." Woojin improved his swordsmanship. Black said, "What swordsmanship?" "Ah, yes, I understand." "Did you suddenly realize something?" Woojin replied, "What are you talking about? Don't you feel it shrinking to nothing when you hold me in your arms right like this?" Woojin, who was invited like that, said, "I want to ask if I don't overreact like that." Black replied, "Yes, it's not a bad choice, as you have to reach a low rank to train more effectively." Woojin said, "But right now I'm short on projects, so I won't be able to increase all stats now." With his remaining points, Woojin increased staff intelligence. Woojin could only increase it by 12 points, 8 points for sword, and 4 points for intelligence. Woojin asked Black, "How do I train my start intelligence?" Black replied, "You only need to polish your mana and aura." Woojin said, "Then it's time to start his training." Woojin said, "He was weak since he was beaten by me. I'm sure he'll be waiting next time." "Oh, then you can practice in peace now." Woojin said, "I need to train my aura to increase my intelligence, right? I have my good sandbag, so I have to use it." Woojin looks out of a terrible smile. Black replied, "A sandbag?" Woojin walked out saying, "I just need to practice the aura application method and look for him soon." Without him realizing, the aura was already leaving his body. Black replied, "I think it looks like you've used that aura of yours." Black approached Woojin, then said, "I know that regency when you were 24 years old, but wouldn't it still be a bit difficult, even if a little weak? If you face it head on, it would be dangerous." But Woojin didn't heed the warning from Black, who replied, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. You just have to watch it." Seeing Woojin's behavior like that, Black said, "Is he really crazy, huh?" Someone seemed to be practicing at the practice site. He is seen practicing while releasing his anger. He thought that Baek Woojin the bastard, he had to spend it. A while ago, when Myung-won was walking, he ran into the fifth child, Baek Sohei, and accidentally collided with his shoulder. "You hit me first." "Aren't you ashamed of yourself?" Woojin said. "What do you mean? I heard you lost to Woojin. All the university kids were talking about how pathetic you are. How could the second swordsman lose to someone who doesn't even have a ranking? You despised him so much, but look now how pathetic you are." So he walked away while laughing, mocking his defeat. Can't answer anything. He could only hold back his guilt for having been ridiculed like that. When Myung-hoon was upset, Woojin came to him. He said, "Oh, it seems you're very excited, huh?" He looks back. He says, "What are you doing here, huh?" Woojin replied that it looks like you have received expensive treatment, huh? Your face looks so smooth. Our doctor should be able to do it. Nu-hoon said, "What did you say?" "Did you seriously come here to die?" Woojin replied, "What? I'll give you one chance. Let's fight right now." Woojin's challenge. He says, "Did you think after you got your aura that you have become strong?" "Very arrogant." Woojin replied, "I know you hate me a lot. I'm only giving you a fair chance to beat me. You won't beg." Confused by Woojin's current behavior, he thought, "What's wrong with this guy? What's wrong with her mind? He's like a completely different person. It's only been a few days since he got his aura. Did he get another skill or something?" Woojin replied, "You don't even need to use your sword. Just fight me with your fists, it will be easier." His anger immediately exploded at the taunt. Myung-hoon immediately threw his sword. He said, "Watch your head before I break it." Woojin immediately set his stance. I won't get beaten up like last time, no matter what I'll beat him up. He immediately attacked Woojin, but his punch was blocked by Woojin. I can clearly see your strategy. You tried using the same method I used against you last time, right? You're aiming for my head like I did before. But he didn't care about Woojin's chatter. He hit his fist again, but Woojin easily avoided it and immediately activated his aura. After initially enveloping her body, he smacked her right in the chin. Because of that punch, Myung-hoon lost his concentration. The condition was put to good use by Woojin. He attacked Myung-hoon with multiple combos. He was made helpless by Woojin's attack and was knocked unconscious again by Woojin at the training ground. Woojin smiled. He said, "Good, I understand how to make full use of my aura now." Black, who was dumbfounded, saw Woojin fight. He thinks it looks like I'm paired with the craziest contractor in the world. I never thought he would use his aura to beat up his own brother. Woojin and Black were seen walking around the city. Black, who had just seen a civilization that was foreign to him, said, "Very tall buildings, but basically a forest." "But where are we going? Since when did you leave the house?" "You still remember when I praised how well I used aura to beat? Now I can fully use aura. I have to register now. I'm an aura user. I have to register in the association." When he got there, Woojin went straight to the receptionist. Woojin said, "I want to register as a user. You register as a swords first. Next, we will test your aura." But when Woojin had written down his personal data, the receptionist looked a bit surprised. He asked, "Is your name Baek Woojin?" Woojin replied, "Yes, that's true." The receptionist asked, "Then are you by any chance from the Baek sword family?" "No, I actually don't really like that Baek family. To be honest, someone from another family of climbers came last month. But do you know how shocked he was? He says he is a member of the Baek family, so he doesn't need to be tested anything. He asked if I knew who he was. But yeah, anyway, it was the first time I met such a bastard." The receptionist said, "A nice person like you can't possibly be related to someone like that bastard, right? And also you are much more handsome." The receptionist tilted her head in embarrassment. After saying that, Black asked Woojin, "Hey, do you not care about your own family?" Woojin replied, "Sorry, but I plan to destroy this family." The receptionist said, "Okay, basics done. Your certificate is registered in the app, so you only need to register your aura." Suddenly, Woojin's cell phone received a notification containing a certificate of ability that had been issued. Woojin smiled and said, "Thank you." A while later, Woojin was walking after exiting the association building. "In my previous life, I obtained this certificate when I was 24 years old." "Of course you're happy. Black said you can be childish like that sometimes, huh? Many things will change in the future, so don't get too excited just yet." Woojin replied, "Yes, if this is true, this is the real beginning." However, Woojin was startled by someone calling him from behind. It turned out that the person who was teasing him was the receptionist earlier. The receptionist breathlessly said, "Mr. Swordsman, do you have time now?" The receptionist explained a dungeon had appeared, but they were lacking a swordsman. "I was wondering if you are interested in joining. There's actually someone waiting at the association, but I'm asking you specifically. This is you." Black whispered to Woojin, "He might be acting like this because you helped him curse your family." Woojin replied, "You think so too?" Black said, "Well, now that you've gotten stronger, maybe this is a chance to test him in real combat." Woojin thought, "And if it was a monster, then there was no problem. This is a chance to see how far he has come. Also how different he was from his previous life." Woojin said, "I will go." A few moments passed. Woojin had arrived at the place. His appearance was immediately greeted by the people who were going to enter there. One of the guys said, "Are you a rookie?" Woojin introduced himself. The person shook hands too, so lucky to be in on your first day after registering. Woojin replied, "This is my first time, but I will do my best." The person beside Park Hong whispered to Mr. Yuman, "That person's last name was Baek. Why is Yang talking casually to her? He might just be a member of the sword family." Park Hong replied, "Yong-hoon, think about it. Do you think a direct descendant of the Baek sword family would come to such a dirty and small dungeon?" They prepared to rush into the dungeon while running, saying yes. The preparations were almost done. He glanced at Woojin and he asked, "So are you the Superman of the Baek family?" Woojin replied, "I don't really like that Baek family," surprised by the answer. "Liar. Don't say something like that. Do you know how cruel the swordsmen of the Baek family are? If they heard what you said just now, you're in big trouble." Looked around, checking to see if there was anyone else around them. Hearing that, Black asked Woojin, Your family's reputation is very rotten. Woojin replied, Hey, I didn't know it would be this bad. Suddenly, Woojin's attention was fixed on a red-haired bot who was in the middle of a rock. While looking at the sky at that time, strangely, he said, That. Black replied, Do you know who that girl is? Woojin said, I had a bad feeling, like I've seen it before. Black replied, Wow, look how come your attitude is like your father. Woojin suddenly remembered something. Ah, I remember, he's Jeo Kyunghwa from the Thundercloud, the youngest daughter of the family who is hostile to the Baek family. Even in my previous life, she was a famous ability user. He said he practiced on his own without the help of his family. I see it now with my own eyes. Someone calls him Dun. Let's go. He replied, Yes, I was there. When he saw Woojin, who kept looking at him, You are? He stretched out his hand and answered, I'm Baek Woojin. Shook his hand. Black looked surprised because of what he heard Black say. Woojin. Now I understand he changed his last name so he could practice while hiding facts about his family. He trains normally without using a kit like a... Offended said to Black, Hi, what do you mean, if the first one to offer makes a contract with the goat? Come on everyone, before we're too late. They replied, Yes. They slid off after being inside the dungeon. Mr. Hong explained that everyone should know by now that this dungeon was a monster dungeon. The monster isn't as dangerous as it looks, but you can get hurt if you're not careful. Watch your step. Hearing that explanation, Woojin answered that the paint was different. He understood, saying that the monster was raging on the wall with its large size. Black couldn't believe that monster could build something this big. When they stepped into the engine, deeper empty, accidentally stepped on something, and suddenly the ground shook violently. Did I make fun of something bad? Black asked Woojin. Is this vibration because the monster knows how to scream? Be careful, we don't know where the monster will appear from. Pay attention to your surroundings and avoid places where cracks are visible. Suddenly in front of them, something jumped out of the ground and hung from the ceiling. Looking at the monster in the ceiling, Youngin said, This lie might be hard to deal with. He replies, Now they know we are here. They will keep chasing us. Their hearing is more Baek than their eyes. All be careful, even if they are easy to kill, they are still dangerous. In the midst of such conditions, he still managed to remain calm. He stared at the monster sharply. Pahang said the vines on their screen were strong enough to better attack other parts of his body. Woojin took out a sword from his inventory. Black said, This is not the right place to swing an object, but Woojin replied, I have experience fighting against that monster. In front of me previously, one of the monsters lunged but was blocked by Baek by him. After that one attack, the monsters were back to preparing for the next attack. The monsters began to surround them. After a moment of silence, suddenly the monsters lunged at them together. The attack filled the cave with smoke. Pahong uses his sword to block the attack. He shouted, Is everything okay? Are there any victims? Our vision is limited because of the smoke. Be careful. One of the guys replied, It seems we don't have any injured victims, sir. Casually endured the monster's attack. It even yawned from boredom. Seeing the conditions that required him to fight, Black said to Woojin, Be careful. You still don't have any experience in actual combat. Maybe too much for you to handle. Even if you have become stronger, try to dodge. Look for better opportunities first. Hey, why you guys? What are you waiting for? Avoid it, stupid. Woojin didn't stay silent even though he saw a monster approaching him. He says to Black, I know the monster's weakness. When the monster jumped at him, Woojin activated his aura. He focused on aiming for the small gap in the monster's neck that was not covered by the vines. When he saw the gap quickly, Rain directly stabbed him. That way the mall monster died instantly. Then Woojin shouted. Her soft neck that wasn't covered by the vines was her weakness because the other skin was tough. Better aim for his neck. Hearing that, Yonghoon said, But the vines are small. But suddenly behind him there's a monster preparing to attack. Seeing that, he immediately jumped and punched the monster's neck with his hand. After taking down the monster, he said, Was there some reason to aim for its neck, to kill him, seeing animals like that? Woojin thought, Aren't you too strong? A few moments passed. After that, it seemed they had taken care of most of the monsters. They will immediately attack as soon as we enter the dungeon. They are really rude. Do you think those monsters have something like common sense? Everyone tried to dodge this dungeon. There wasn't much information about them. How did you know it was a fact that the monster's weakness was down their necks? Woojin was shocked to hear the question. Someone told me before. I heard that it helps to study a lot. Is that so? He must be a nice guy. So who exactly told you that information? That is none of your business. Technically, the me from the past taught me this. As they walked deeper into the grounds, someone asked, but seriously, who would have thought, aren't monsters supposed to be handled by swordsmen? It is possible that there is something with them. Suddenly, someone realized something. He raised his hand indicating to be silent and stopped. Ahead there is a junction, but it looks like everything is going our way. The association said that we just need to get rid of the monster, so let's split into 2 groups. But he said, look above the monster's head. Isn't that the boss's seal? The other monsters got tougher. What exactly were they exploring here? Black, who was surprised by the new term, asked Woojin. Woojin answered yes, it can also be called a guard, even though it has good prizes, but the monsters are also much more difficult to kill. Black said they seemed right when they said, big prizes follow big assignments. Woojin answered yes, right. I assumed to mean this dungeon must be the hardest, and suddenly said, don't worry about monsters. Do you have a plan? You all can go the other way. I'll take care of a monster myself. You guys keep going, after saying that he immediately ran after his boss monster. Even though understanding tries to stop him, he has already gone too far down that path. He says, what do we do now, sir? Are we going to follow it? Someone answered. Since Park Yoon is skilled, I'm sure he'll be okay. But letting it go alone is kinda. Woojin suddenly raised his hand and said, is it okay if I follow and help him? What are you saying? This is your first time coming to the dungeon. Woojin replied, I've learned enough about monsters, and the cold need not worry me. Young-hoon said, lie. They leave it to him. We can take care of the other CC and finish this game quickly. Although skilled, he still needs someone to help him, let alone fight boss monsters. Fine, but back off as soon as you think you're in danger. That's advice that comes from my personal experience. Woojin smiled and answered, okay, thank you, Mr. Hong. So Woojin immediately rushed to catch up with Yunhua. Black, who was with Woojin, asked why you want to help him. Accelerated his run. Woojin replied that he had crossed his limits. He tried to kill the boss monster I summoned. Ha! Even so, it was just a slightly stronger monster, and Woojin replied, didn't I tell you if you defeat the boss monster, you will get a reward? There's a chance to get good items, but if I want to, I don't do anything. Suddenly appeared a notification, a surprise quest in front of Woojin that told him to defeat the boss monster before anyone else. The prize is 200 points and a surprise gift. Seeing that, Woojin said, perfect. Isn't this the right time for a quest? Black replied that the timing was perfect. Woojin also accepted the quest and said, because at this point I will risk my life to try it. With a flat face, Black answered, why do you maintain life when you have died before? It was a creature I had never seen before. But the creature looks strange, Woojin replied. It hasn't been long since that monster appeared here. Was that why the previous people had trouble killing him? Woojin answered yes, and they weren't as strong as they seemed. They have a large body, so they tire easily on their own. Easy to catch them. It will be a little different 10 years from now, Black said. Oh, the period of time you lived before. And I was definitely different from the me my previous life. This time is definitely different. I will become much stronger and take down the sword family of better value. But Woojin's attention was diverted when he saw someone who was facing 2 monsters in front of him. Woojin smiled and said, meet you. Black said, luckily it looks like the boss hasn't been defeated yet. Woojin replied, okay, let's go there first. When facing the 2 monsters, he ran past them regardless of Yunhua. Realizing it, he thought, that person isn't he Baek? After taking care of the 2 monsters, he who was not far away seemed to have noticed something when he saw a form. After approaching, where are you going? Woojin flatly replied that he wanted to go to the monsters. I already said that I would kill the boss of the monsters. It was dangerous. Why did you come all the way here, if you only came to offer a favor? I refuse it. I alone is enough. I do not need your help. Woojin replied, what are you talking about? I didn't come to help you. What did you say then? Why you? Cutting his sentence, he replied, I will kill your boss. You really can't be trusted. You say you're new to being an ability user. Maybe that's why. But listen, this isn't a game where you win casual clothes without any gear and get fooled by your dreams. You asked to die? Black said, you don't care what that woman just said. But Woojin replied, hey, do you want to bet with me? Yes, I will face the boss monster first. If I beat it within 3 minutes, I win. If I can't beat it, then you can beat the monster. I will also grant whatever your request is as an additional reward. Suddenly a boss monster appeared from the ground near them, but they both stay calm. Surprised by Woojin's words, he said, 3 minutes? Did you just say think what's wrong with his head? Even a rank 3 ability user couldn't do it in 3 minutes. Woojin replied, "Okay, go for it. If you defeat the boss monster within 3 minutes, I will also grant your wish." Woojin said, "Promise, don't lie." He nods, thinking whatever you will fail in the end, I will definitely win this bet considering I also rest before I fight the boss monster. Black looked surprised by the bet. He said to Woojin, "Are you sure about this? Isn't 3 minutes too short?" Woojin replied casually, "3 minutes means nothing to me coming 10 years in the future. 1 minute is enough." Seeing Woojin getting ready to fight his boss monster thought, I can't understand no matter how many times I think about him coming all the way here and making an unreasonable bet. Is it possible to get my attention? Yeah, sure, like that. I get it now. I thought he had a strange bend from the start. Black, who noticed him suddenly blatantly, looked at you with disdain. Woojin, of course, thought about it. He thought his boss monster was his, and then someone came to harass him. But I don't care that all the lasers are mine. Black said, no, I don't think that's the reason. But the monster suddenly went berserk. He attacks with the vines that are on his neck. But Woojin can easily avoid all of that. Yunhua, who saw Woojin's fight, was quite impressed with his ability. Annoyed that his vine attacks kept on being avoided, the boss mouser changed his attack using both of his kroots and immediately lunged. Seeing the attack, Woojin said, "Now you make such wide moves when fighting, which makes it easier for me to dodge." Woojin dodged and activated his aura. He again found a large gap between the vines that were on the monster's neck. Without wasting any more time, Woojin immediately stabbed. After that with his sword. Very surprised because Woojin could easily kill his boss with just a few tips. He said, "How come after playing with his sword so that no blood sticks to it?" Woojin was flattered, then replied that it only took about 30 seconds to kill the boss monster. Am I right to win the bet? Woojin also managed to complete the surprise quest. He gets 200 points as a prize and also a surprise gift. Believing what he saw, said, "You were just a swords." But what if you can kill the boss monster? Your sword wore aura. What just happened? Do you want to know how I killed the boss monster? He says, "Of course you want to know how. I will never tell you." Yanhua, who was annoyed at being toyed with like that, said, "You're the one who asked me to ask." Black said, "Wow, you're so cruel, Woojin. By the way, I killed the boss monster. So you will grant my wish, right? What kind of request do I ask you?" For a moment he was silent, then said, "Okay, I underestimated you. I will use his request later. He is Yantak, interesting words." Because there weren't many warriors lately, Yan was even irritated after hearing the answer from Woojin. He thinks, this brat. Why do I feel like I lost to this brat? I feel like I lost all my words. Woojin smiled, then said to be able to ask for something, being the most precious youngest daughter of the Georgian family. But the Baek family, even your last name is Baek Woojin. I don't like the Baek sword family. Do you want to look or curse the Baek family? Woojin answered. Why? Black said, did you do this on purpose? Look at him grinding his teeth in annoyance. He really is like a kid. What are you saying? He said, well, whatever. Look at the boss monster's corpse. It looked like something had come out of the corpse. Black asks, is that the prize you're talking about? Woojin answered, yes. If the boss monster dies, it will drop a reward like this. Woojin picked up a ring item that appeared from the corpse of his boss monster. After taking it, Woojin said, I need to check it. Black replied, why bother going here and there? I will do it for you. Woojin flinched at Black's answer. He instantly looks at Black and says, can you do something like this? Black answered, yes. A notification appears that tells the description of the item. Mentality and resistance to Earth attribute users say rings are good for increasing your basic stats. Congratulations. I lost the bet. But I was also too careless, and I also hate whatever you say. Woojin took another item from his boss monster's corpse. A red stone. Woojin replied, thank you. This is your jade. He threw the stone. Catching it, Yonho said, until the end, you're still annoying. The group reached Woojin's place breathless. He says, you really killed him. You young ability users did it fast, faster than us. Good work. Holding Kyunghoa's shoulder, he said, impressive effort. Good job, we got through it easily. Glanced at Mr. Hong, who was holding his shoulder. He pointed at Woojin, then said, he did it, not me, so thank him. He immediately approached Woojin and said if he killed him alone? Did a newbie in the whole cave defeat his monsters alone? He smiled while thinking, I won't be gentle with you next time, Woojin boy. Some time passed after that. After clearing the dungeon, Woojin and Black were seen walking back to his house. While walking, Woojin told Black it was easy enough for the first quest. The people there are also very nice. I also got a bounty from the boss monster, like I hit 2 birds with 1 stone. Black answered. But are you sure it's okay not to worry? Woojin said. Worried about what? Black replies. The woman will probably net you soon. She sure can do it. Woojin casually said, It doesn't matter, I never lie. You said you weren't from the Baek family. Woojin said, What are you talking about? I said I hate the Baek family. I never said I am not a member of his family. But you are really annoying. Arrived at the Baek family residence, but when Woojin stepped in he was surprised because there were 2 people already waiting for him. Moonju Young from the Dark Sword squad who had been keeping an eye on Woojin said, finally came! The short-haired one dressed neatly said, We are waiting for you, sir. Seeing that, Woojin asked, Why are you guys? Seeing Woojin, who was flustered like that, the well-dressed person said, We are here to escort you, young master. I am John, and beside me is Moonjo, who has been assigned to you, young master. Seeing that, Black said 2 maids turned out. Then he said to the 2 maids, Take good care of me. They both lowered their heads. Jean said it was an honor. I look forward to working with you. While turning around, Woojin said, It's late today, you guys. Go home. I will finish my greetings tomorrow. From today onwards, your room will be on the 8th floor of the Baek family. Lord Patriarch told you to move there. Cleared a dungeon on the same day as registering your aura. Patriot ordered you to use the ancestral building directly. Woojin and Black looked surprised. Hearing that said, I can enter the Baek family building? Alright, I'll be in for a bit, so, wait here. After saying that, Woojin immediately entered the ancestral building and checked what the place was like. After getting there and looking through the contents, Woojin said, I'm finally allowed to use the direct ancestral building. Seeing Woojin happy, Black bothered him. He asked if he was happy. Woojin replied that this is only the beginning, so I want to regain my composure. Black says this is not the time to think about the past. There is no need to just run forward. Baek has been taken care of, so no problem there. Baek Hojong, and there are 6 more on it. Black said there were so many of them, it was disgusting. Hearing that, Woojin laughed. Who has 8 children these days? Black said, Woojin. Would you know which one of the men who answered earlier? I'm not sure, but I recognize him when you see his face. He must have been ordered to watch over me in his past life. Maybe I wouldn't know this, but because my mana sensitivity had increased, I could feel her presence this time. Black says yes, the mana stream is the same. Why did you send a member of the squad to watch over me? A group of swordsmen who took orders directly from my father. Black said like an elite guard. Woojin replied, he was right, but it seems I managed to get the attention of my father. By the way, should we go now? Black said, of course I'm also curious. What the Baek family monastery looks like. Arriving in front of the Baek family monastery building. Your room is over here, Mr. Woojin. Good job, because today's the first day. You both of you should go home rested. He replied, Thank you. I will see you tomorrow morning. The guard also said, then I will excuse myself. After saying that, they both lowered their heads and leave from there. But suddenly Woojin called back the guard. Wait a moment, because he was called like that. He stopped his steps. He turned around and said, Is there anything you need, Mr. Woojin? Smiling, he said, Everything is fine, okay, but please keep your distance when you're observing me. I also need privacy. If you know, then see you tomorrow. Hearing Woojin's words, he couldn't answer what he said. He just stood there, watching Woojin's departure into the building. Arriving at his new room, Black said, Hey Woojin, do you even have this and that? You will also benefit if my position gets higher. Black screamed. Hey, didn't you say your father is cruel too if you say that to the guard? Won't that stab you in the back later? Not in the slightest. I know very well what kind of people they are. If the guard told him he was spotted while watching me, he would actually be happier for it. Now unexpected rewards for killing boss monsters are unlocked. Black says, of course, because your luck is big enough. I wonder what you'll get this time. Source opens open status window. Woojin answered the surprise quest reward was something like a gacha machine, right like before? Lots of cards floating around him. You have to make your choice carefully. You won't know what's in it if you should pick one at random without expecting anything. Woojin replied, I know that, but I'm not sure this time. Black said, Who knew you might hit the jackpot? Woojin answered for gacha like this. You have to choose whatever you like. One of the cards in front of him. After selecting it, another card disappeared and the card he chose turned into a wooden mask. Black looks very surprised to see the item. Woojin. He looked at the mask flatly. Woojin said, "What is this? This item looks like an item made from trash. Is the system error or what is this, or is your luck really that good?" Seeing Black like that, Woojin asked, "Why are you angry like that?" Black uses water abrasion skill. See for yourself. See how extraordinary this item is. The item is named Great Transform Demon Mask, a mask worn by a unique assassin called the all-powerful Transformation Demon of the Empire. Its users can change the face of the body, and even the color of this legendary ranking item. The user should be able to use mana. The user's special ability can transform into anyone he has seen. After seeing the item description, Woojin looked very surprised. He said this trash-like item was a legendary item. According to the description, I can even change my body. You won't be able to grow a few inches taller, but if for some reason, this item can change the color of your aura. This item is amazing. I can meet anyone if I want. Let's try this item. Woojin brought the item closer to his face. Black told Woojin to think about the image of the person to be imitated, as well as choose the color for the mana. Woojin thought the last person I saw today was Guard. I would choose light blue for his mana. Woojin's whole body glowed. Then after a while, he transformed exactly like a guard. Woojin also wanted to look at himself in the mirror. Use your aura to see if the color changes or not. So Woojin immediately tried to extract mana from his palm, and this time the color changed to a light blue color like he said earlier. Thanks, Blackstone. If I listen to you and be more careful, I won't get this item. I can't say that it's unrelated because it's the source of everything you learn. Woojin answered the source of the lesson. Black says you will find out soon enough, but that's not a place you can go to right now. Focus on getting stronger and about the mask. Looks like I'll be using it a lot otherwise. What's the use of hiding your identity as the son of a famous family? It's not like you're planning to commit any crimes whatsoever. Woojin took off his mask. He answered, "Looks like I'll use it tomorrow." Black said, "Huh, what are you using it for?" A few moments passed after that. At this time, Woojin was facing his father. Patriot asked, "I heard that you went to yesterday." Woojin said yes. Black said your father already knew you were gone even though the guards weren't watching you. Woojin said to Black, "Daddy has eyes and ears everywhere. It's possible that he got information from the Patria Association. I heard some interesting news." "Did you bet there?" Black said, Wow. What a small world to think he knew about that." Patriarch, without even lifting a finger, continued, "What if he knew who you bet with? Juk, the Fire family's youngest daughter, and you still bet with her?" He replies, "That's why I spent to make that bet. I want to show the youngest daughter of the Jade family who is actually the youngest son of the Good Sword family. Then explain why you hide your identity as a member of the Baek family. I never hid. He himself made the misunderstanding. But when he found out about my identity as a member of the Baek family, I wanted to know the expression on his face." Patria smiled. He said, "Interesting. All right, I allow it. I will allow you to use everything available to the descendants of the Baek family sword. That means you must walk the Baek family path when needed. Use the sword surname Baek. You are also allowed to use the initial training base and the library." Hearing that, Woojin thought I finally reached the same starting point as the others. Woojin replied, "Thank you, sir." Woojin stopped because he saw a new quest notification in front of him. The quest told Woojin to choose whether he would walk the path others walked or create his own. His condition of reaching 25 sword experience points with horizontal slash and sword draw. The quest acceptance benefits and Woojin's physique would improve drastically. While the quest is in progress, the reward is 700 points, a title, and also the path of the sword itself. Woojin looked very surprised by the appearance of the quest. He thought, why is there a quest at a time like this? Black says, if you have to choose one of them, you say now you are at the same starting point as the others. But actually your starting point is already different from the others. Things have been different since you met me, so you have to choose whether you will take the same path and situation as those bastards, or you will become a swordsman walking your own path. Woojin looked confused. He asked Black, what if I accept the quest and use another skill? Black replied, of course the quest would fail stupid. Might say it's a stupid thing. Saw Woojin, who was silent, without answering what he said. Dad said, why don't you answer me, Baek Woojin? Do you refuse it? It's not like that. Woojin thought my father and brother and even my sister had become a monster. Is there any use for someone as untalented as me to try to catch up to them? No, of course not. Different method. I have to walk a different path. He accepted the quest. From now on, if Woojin uses any skill other than horizontal slash, he will fail the quest. It will increase drastically while the quest is in progress. He said, "Excuse me, but is it okay if I say something? I've learned a lot while practicing alone. Is it possible if you give me more time to practice alone?" The Patriots say, "If you train properly under a great instructor, you should be able to grow faster, but you're wasting that opportunity just training alone. I want to practice alone." Patriot holds his chin. He says, "Okay, but you have 2 months. After 2 months, I will test you. If you can't pass that, you will be punished." I can definitely attest to my opinion. A few moments passed. Yanhua, who was practicing at his house, was practicing his fists by hitting a stand. But due to the blow being too strong, the stand that couldn't take the hit was broken. Her sister, who saw that behind her, said the stand was an expensive new product. "Father will question about this." Without turning around, Yunhua answered, "I'm not happy to talk so scram." Her brother said, "Why are you so cold at the end of the day? Do you know why I came here? I have information about someone you are looking for." Hearing that, he immediately turned around and said, "What?" His brother replied that, "You immediately turned around after I mentioned information about him." "Yes, I understand at your age that you are interested in love." Quickly he tried to take the paper held by his brother while saying, "Give me the paper." Her brother gave her the paper while answering, "You haven't changed." "Yes." He then read the information about Woojin. After that said, "Baek Woojin, turns out he is the same age as me." Under the snow in the middle of the city, you can see lots of couples spending time together. One of them seen a man holding a gift, and he looked right and left to find someone. Then across the street, there was a woman calling him, smiling sweetly while waving her hand. Quickly, the woman wanted to approach the man, where both of them were seen smiling happily while crossing the zebra crossing. However, from a distance, a woman watches them and doesn't seem to accept them together, so she is planning something evil. When the mysterious woman smiled evilly, suddenly the woman who approached the man was mysteriously cut into several pieces without bleeding at all from her body and died on the spot. This of course shocked the man who had been waiting for his idol to come to him for a long time. The man then fell to his knees, apparently unable to accept that this was reality. Soon after, the mysterious woman who previously smiled evilly then left them seemingly satisfied with what had happened. Love or death, welcome to KML or kill my love. Meanwhile, on the other hand, a little boy named Ning Yuen was shown in the middle of a pile of dead birds. The little boy just stood there frozen, while people called him a monster. After that, a cell phone was shown, showing that it was the first month of lunar year in the year 2020. And immediately after that, a man woke up from his nightmare, and that man was Ning Yuen, who had grown up. Ning Yuen said that he again had the same dream as before. After Ning Yuen got up from his bed, he quickly took a shower and spent some time there. After finishing, Ning Yuen called his girlfriend, who was still asleep. Ning Yuen seemed to have expected this, and he told his girlfriend and Ran to get up immediately. But his girlfriend instead discussed yesterday's incident regarding a woman who died in a dismembered state. Ning Yuen wonders why Anran cares about such a thing. But Anran says that she is a biology major, and she is also curious about this terrible incident. She thinks it is strange and inhumane. After chatting on the phone, Ning Yuen was going to the lecture hall and to his friend's place while bringing breakfast. But before leaving, Yuen also saw a photo of his friend with various expressions that he pasted on the door wall. Only one expression Ning Yuen paid much attention to, and that was Smile One Polite's expression. That was because within that expression was a note telling Ning Yuen to always remember to smile like that, and then Ning Yuen smiled along with it. At the college, Yizhou University, many lovers were making out. There were also 2 women, and one of them was complaining because she didn't have a boyfriend. Her friend also suggested asking Ning Yuen, a senior brother who was said to be single, but her friend seemed not to know who Ning Yuen was. "How do you not know the most handsome senior brother?" she said right there, while behind them was a suspicious woman carrying a gift box. Not long after that, Ning Yuen also arrived at the college. The 2 women greeted and approached Ning Yuen, and then they asked about the gift box that Ning Yuen was holding. Ning Yuen was confused about what to answer, because he himself did not know who had sent the gift to him. "Is Ning Yuen going to keep it?" Ning Yuen replied with a kind smile. Of course it was made with great effort. This is of course very amazing for the 2 women, considering that it is very rare for a man to appreciate someone's effort. After that, Ning Yuen left. Then one of the women said to her friend, "Ning Yuan is really handsome and very kind, isn't he?" In her opinion, Senior Ning Yuan was indeed kind and friendly compared to other seniors. But behind that, she felt a bit strange with Ning Yuan's forced smile, as if Ning Yuan seemed to have and use many different kinds of masks, and that actually scared her. Long story short, Ning Yuan was already at his girlfriend An Ran's place. Ning Yuan called her to come out immediately, but it looked like An Ran had just finished taking a shower. Then she opened the door naked without paying any heed to Ning Yuan. Without reacting at all, Ning Yuan said, "Ran, please be polite, and go get some clothes or you will get sick. If you are sick, who else will I ask for help?" An Ran angrily closed the door while scolding him. After all was done, Ran also checked the chocolate gift that Ning Yuan got, and she said that it was made of premium material as usual, and there was no poison. But there was one thing that bothered her as she found blood on the bean. Strangely, the blood didn't mix with the other ingredients. In fact, it was like the chocolate was deliberately coated with blood after it was finished. Ning Yuan always gets gifts on Mondays at the same time and place. Ning Yuan agrees, and explains that he always gets gifts on Mondays. Black Box presents perfectly, and doesn't leave any notes. This person also seemed to know Ning Yuan well, and was able to avoid the maid who always cleaned Ning Yuan's front door, and then she put gifts at the door. "Who could it be?" Ning Yuan said while making a terrible expression. Seeing that, Ran pinched Ning Yuan and said, "I told you not to make that expression again. I don't want to see that kind of face again. Do you understand?" Asked Ran to make sure of this, which was then answered yes by Ning Yuan. After that, the two of them wanted to go to campus, and before that Ning Yuan threw away the chocolate gifts he got. It turned out that from a distance, a woman saw Ning Yuan throw away the gift. She said, "Ning Yuan, why did you throw away the gift I made for you?" Upon arrival at the campus, Yuan spoke with a friend named Chung Suo and said that he met someone yesterday and got his number. "Don't you already have a lover?" Ning Yuan asked. "You mean Xiao Li? We were just kidding," Chung Suo replied casually, as if he had been playing with Xiao Li's heart. In another place, Xiao Li is shown smiling evilly, and she looks like she's holding a piece of paper, and then kisses it and tears it while saying, "Tang Suo, I wish you all the best." Back to Ning Yuan's place. Chung Suo then gets a message from his new crush, who seems to be going for a walk. He also asked Ning Yuan for help, so he could skip class today, while Ning Yuan also said yes. Then he left Ning Yuan. But here Ning Yuan also saw a strange symbol on Chung Suo's neck, and thought it was a tattoo. When did he get a tattoo of a symbol like that? Well, that's none of my business, thought Ning Yuan. Long story short, Ning Yuan entered the class and paid attention to the lecturer's explanation about memory and emotional problems, in line with Ning Yuan's interest in studying himself, which he still didn't even understand. After the lesson was over, Ning Yuan and the lecturer had a conversation, which in essence was the lecturer who had studied human behavior for 20 years. But even after meeting Ning Yuan 2 years ago, the lecturer simply couldn't figure out Ning Yuan's way of thinking, seeing Ning Yuan's behavior. Yuan is more like a robot. Hearing that, Ning Yuan was surprised, and asked why the lecturer said such a sudden thing. Then the lecturer replied, "Don't be nervous, it's just my years of experience, but I have advice for you. We are only human. It is obligatory to have emotions. After all, it's part of life. Don't always be like that, Ning Yuan, and I guarantee that you will be more happy." Then the lecturer left Ning Yuan, who seemed still hit by the conversation. On the other hand, Ran is shown waiting for Ning Yuan in the middle of the city at night. After a while, Ning Yuan arrives at the place, and Ran reaches out her hand to ask something to Ning Yuan. "You can't forget it's my birthday, right?" asked Ran. "You're really smart. I've ordered a restaurant for dinner tonight." Ning Yuan said. "What you gave is of course not a dress anymore, right?" she asked. Ning Yuan couldn't even answer, and after that the two of them were already in the restaurant, and as Ran expected, Yuan still gave the same gift, namely a dress again, which made Ran furious. But Ning Yuan also said that he chose this dress a long time ago, and he thinks Ran will suit wearing it. Hearing that, Ran even blushed. Then Ran also wanted to replace her gift with a request. Ning Yuan didn't have a problem, but Ran wanted to feel love because she would soon be 20 years old. Ran also asked Ning Yuan to kiss her. Ning Yuan also said, "Didn't you say that it only has to be done with someone you like?" Before Ning Yuan could finish his sentence, Ron immediately kissed him, and it was their first kiss since they had known each other since childhood. Of all people, why should you Ning Yuan? Ron thought to herself. But outside the restaurant, it turned out that someone was taking pictures of the two of them, and that was the mysterious girl who had always mysteriously given gifts to Ning Yuan. Here too we are shown about Ning Yuan and Ron's childhood past. Yuan was taken to the hospital, and the doctor diagnosed that Ning Yuan has a rare disease called a severe emotional disability. He does not feel normal human emotions such as happiness, anger, love, and joy. Ran, what kind of disease do I have? Asked Yuan, who still did not know about what disease he was suffering from. Nothing. Just remember, Ning Yuan, I am always beside you, always, Ran replied while hugging Yuan. After that, it was shown that Ning Yuan and Ran wanted to go home. Ran, who is drunk, asks Yuan if she will have a boyfriend. She won't be able to be together every day anymore, and what will happen to him? Of course, I will wish both of you the best, Ning Yuan replied. Then Ning Yuan wanted to take Ran home, but Ran seemed cranky hearing Yuan's previous answer. Then Ran said, "You are still the same as before. Why is it only me growing up?" Ran also left Yuan. Yuan also wants to stop Ran, but suddenly Chung Suo calls that he has met his crush. "Leave me alone!" Ning Yuan said with an angry face while turning off Chung Suo's call. It was the most terrifying thing that Chung Suo had experienced, because this was the first time he had heard Ning Yuan get so angry like that. The next day, Ning Yuan kept calling, but Ran never picked up. Suddenly, someone knocked on Ning Yuan's door and it turned out to be Chung Suo. Ning Yuan would not let Chung Suo enter because there was a collection of Ran's photos on the door. There, Chung Suo also explained that he had come for 2 reasons. First, because last night I called Yuan in a bad mood, so I checked to see if Yuan was okay. Secondly, I want to celebrate the official relationship between me and Mei Mei, and want to celebrate it, and you have to be present, said Chung Suo, explaining at length. Maybe I won't have time, said Ning Yuan, who didn't seem to want to come, but Chung Suo continued to say, Mei Mei invited her friends, including Ran. Heard that there was Ran, Yuan immediately decided to join. Long story short, night came. Yuan walked to the place Chung Suo had told him about. On the way, Yuan heard a woman say, "Those who betray me will be sacrificed," while she laughed, and Ning Yuan seemed to recognize the woman who turned out to be Chung Suo's ex, Xiao Li, but Ning Yuan chose to ignore it. After that, Ning Yuan arrived at Chung Xiao and his friend's place. Chung Suo also said that he and his girlfriend could hear each other's thoughts, but his friends didn't believe it. Suddenly, Chung Suo heard something and wanted to prove that his girlfriend would soon be behind the door. His friends, including Ning Yuan, saw the door that was about to open, and it turned out that Chung Suo's girlfriend had really appeared. Suddenly, it made his friends surprised. "How did you do it? Did you plan it beforehand?" said his friend. "I told you I'm fated to be with her. The voice in my brain is a gift from God," he said. There also turned out to be Ran, who came with Chung Suo's girlfriend. Seeing that, Yuan was relieved because Ran was fine. Then Yuan waved his hand to Ran with a smile. Seeing Yuan, Ran was surprised while remembering the incident that night. She immediately turned her head and wanted to run away. "Is she still angry? What exactly did I do to her?" Yuan thought, confused, seeing that Chung Suo felt something strange about Ning Yuan's behavior and shouted, "Just admit that you two are a couple," he said, making Ran's cheeks blush. And she wanted to explain, but her friends didn't hear her. Meanwhile, behind the door was a woman holding a piece of paper that looked like Xiao Li, Chung Suo's former ex. The paper said, "Kill my love," and she said, "Only I have the right to stand beside you, Senior Ning Yuan." After that, Chung Suo brought 99 stalks of roses to celebrate his anniversary with Mei Mei, but suddenly one of his friends said something was twinkling around his neck. Chung Suo saw that Yuan was a little weird, the same as before, but why when Chung Suo all met him at home he didn't see it, thought Ning Yuan. Then Chung Suo didn't care what his friend said about the twinkle on his neck. He also expressed all his feelings to Mei Mei while approaching his girlfriend. But suddenly the light around his neck seemed to explode, and at that moment, Chung Suo was also chopped into pieces in front of his girlfriend and friends. Suddenly everyone was shocked and shouted. Ning Yuan, who saw that, was shocked, and suddenly a symbol tattoo appeared on his neck. In a confused situation, a voice appeared in Ning Yuan's mind. "Player Ning Yuan number 163, Welcome to killing my love. From now on, you must choose between love, life, or death. Suddenly, a notification appeared that sounded a warning. You are on the verge of a dangerous zone with your lover. Ning Yuan realized that the voice he heard was the same as what Chung Suo had heard. Then Ran called Yuan. What are you doing? Come here quickly! Yuan was about to approach Ran, but the notification kept ringing. After that, Ning Yuan saw Chung Suo's ex-girlfriend standing behind the glass, while she said, You made me have no choice but to do this, Chung Suo. Seeing this, Yuan realized that the incident that took Chung Suo's life was the work of his ex. Then Yuan was only a few meters away from approaching Ran, but the notifications he got kept on ringing. Yuan also realized that if he got closer to Ran, something would happen to Ran. And sure enough, Ran's finger looked like it was about to be cut off. Yuan warns Ran not to approach him. After that, Yuan went through the window by breaking the glass. Ran was confused to see him. Then she realized and found there was a wound on her finger. A few hours later, in a place like on the roof of a building, there was a beautiful and sweet girl singing a poem. After that, Yuan came. The girl also said that she had been waiting for Senior Ning Yuan for a long time. Is the appearance beautiful? She asked. Yuan didn't even answer, but asked back. Was it the girl who called him to come here? That's right. Before I didn't dare to meet Senior, but now it's different because Senior will never be fated to be together with Chen and Ran, said the girl. So basically you did this? Asked Yuan. That's right. I'm the one who started this game. I'm willing to be ashes while Seniors and Ran will be sacrificed, said the girl. The girl continued her words. After the game started, if Yuan and Ran got too close, then one of them would die in pieces. Hearing that, Yuan's face changed to his terrible mode. Yuan realized that all this time, the one who always sent gifts was this sweet and naughty girl. And on campus, I also didn't really get involved with women other than Ran. What you're doing is boring and naughty, Yuan said. Hearing that, the girl also cried. So that's what you think, Senior? You have forgotten about that. After that, she was shown a little of the girl's childhood memories with Ning Yuan. The little girl said she would repay Ning Yuan's senior service when she grew up. Now I'm a senior adult, said the girl. After that, Yuan asked about the game the girl had started. Yuan wanted to know the reason. Looks like Yuan still doesn't remember about this girl. The girl realized that Yuan didn't remember her. It's not like that, Senior. Isn't everyone going to die sooner or later? Just like the snowflake in my warm palm is doomed to die. Since then, the only warm feeling is only about you, Senior, said the girl. What are you talking about? Yuan said. Then the girl continued her words. My love has been repaid because Chen and Ran can never pass my love to you. I can do anything for you, Senior, even if I have to die. The girl was jumping from the roof of the building. Goodbye, Senior. See you later. Seeing this, Yuan was shocked and could not save her. Yuan's face looks very shocked. After that incident, Yuan was already at his house and found out about the girl. The girl turned out to be named Yu Xiaoxiao. But how could he not do this to a stranger? The ashes sacrifice death. Then Yuan finds out about the couple's death on the internet. What a surprise, his search results were 150,000 about the death of a partner. After that, at a sports stadium, there was a couple who were keeping their distance. The girl seems to be complaining about the distance they can't get close and touching each other. It seems they are also players. Let's call them Li Xin and Xuan Ran. Suddenly, a notification appears telling them a mission to kill players. Meanwhile, at Ran's place, who was calling Yuan, but he never picked up. Ran also seemed very worried about Yuan because of the past incident. Then Ran was already in the laboratory room. There she was dissecting the rabbit's body. She also scolded her juniors who were just busy chatting. After that, Ran was still thinking about Yuan, who didn't pick up his phone and also didn't reply to her chat. Meanwhile, from a distance, there is someone who is watching Ran. It looks like Ran will be targeted by a player. Long story short, at night, and coming home from college, she was followed by someone. Ran also realized that someone was following her. But after she turned around, there was no one. Is it just my feelings? Muttered Ran. But suddenly someone followed her. He said he didn't expect that it was Chen and Ran. Do you know me? Who are you? She asked. "It doesn't matter who I am, I'm here to kill you," he replied. He also took out a knife and immediately attacked, but unexpectedly Ran could injure the person using her scalpel. That person turned out to be Lee. "Didn't you hear the message from the KML game?" said Lee. "I don't care about the game. The important thing is, you are a criminal," said Ran. Hearing that, Lee realized that Ran didn't know anything about the KML game. Then Lee said Ran must have heard about the recent incident about people dying like mutilated dead. "It's one of the parties of a pair of lovers. If a couple crosses a certain limit, one of them will be cut into pieces, which means not only you can't get close to your lover, but you might also be able to put in danger at any time. To end this game, you have to follow the rules given by the designer of this game. To end this game is to kill you," Lee said, while hitting Ran so hard that it made Ran fall. Lee also wanted to stab Ran with the knife in his hand, but suddenly a flying water bottle flew into Lee's hand and made the knife fall. Someone appeared. Seeing that, Ran realized that the person was Ning Yuan. Ran asks why Yuan is here and also why he didn't pick up the phone and reply to her chat. This is how women are, even in a state of danger, who are asked unnecessary problems. But their conversation was interrupted by Lee. "Seems very happy to see Ning Yuan number 163 and Ran number 164, he said. He also realizes that all this time Yuan has been watching Ran from a distance and thinks he is very smart. Then Yuan asked who made this game and how to end it. Lee also replied, "I don't know who made it, but he knows how to end the game by making one of them die." Hearing Lee's explanation, Ran immediately wanted to call the police. Seeing that, Lee just laughed and said, "Are you guys innocent or stupid? Even though this is ridiculous and can't be scientifically proven, it's just there. You have no idea what you're dealing with and how terrible this KML game is. You guys will slowly realize it." After Lee explained at length, he left saying that he would meet Yuan and Ran again as soon as possible and finish what needed to be done. Yuan and Ran were left, who looked awkward. Yuan explained why he didn't pick up the phone and reply to her chats. It didn't mean he was avoiding Ran. It's just that Yuan wanted to straighten things out. Yuan knows their current situation makes no sense at all, but Yuan realizes that he and Ran entered a death game called Kill My Love. After that, Ran and Yuan continued their conversation in a city park by keeping their distance. Yuan says that he has a few clues that he got about what happened to them, and also heard news about a couple who died, but only one of them, the body of one of the dead lovers, was also killed by an unknown force. Yuan also thought it was just a rumor, but after seeing the incident of Chung Suo's death, he changed his view. Although it's ridiculous and can't be scientifically proven, distance is an important point of everything, and if a couple crosses a certain line, then one of them will die in pieces. "Unfortunately, you and I were brought into the game by a girl we don't know," said Yuan. Hearing that, Ran was shocked. Then Ning Yuan continued saying that the girl thought that Ran and Yuan were lovers. Ran also guessed that the girl Yuan meant was the girl who jumped from the building that time. Yuan also said yes. Then Yuan said from a logical point of view he couldn't find a solution easily, because the best proof tonight was the person who tried to kill Ran. And Yuan suspected that this KML game would continue to add new types of rules and new procedures. This would be more and more dangerous. Hearing Yuan's explanation, Ran didn't seem afraid because, according to Ran, since she was little, she was never afraid of anything if Yuan was with her. "We have to help each other, and also don't leave each other," said Ran. Yuan immediately understood and said, Okay, Ran." The next day at the school library, there was another case of the death of one of the lovers. There was also a police officer there who was handling the case, so he called the principal there and said this case was like the previous cases. The victim died in a public place, and many witnesses saw him. His death was very strange. Somehow we couldn't find any clues. In my life, this is the first time I have encountered this ridiculous and senseless case, said the cop. Hearing that, the principal hoped he could still ask the police for help. But the police said that he was an atheist, but in this case there was no human intervention, and the police apologized for not being able to help and continued the case. Meanwhile, on a campus, Lee's lover named Xuan is giving Lee a message. He asks if Lee failed to kill Ran, because there was no notification from KML. Lee also replied in the chat that he failed because Ning Yuan came. Lee also noticed that Ning Yuan's aura was extremely uncomfortable. After that, at the rock climbing gym, Ning Yuan found out that he knew Lee's whereabouts, and asked why Yuan knew he was here. Did historical Yuan specifically come to kill him? Yuan replied, he came to Lee's place just to solve the first two problems. Don't ever appear in front of me or Ran. Secondly, tell me what kind of game this is. Hearing that, Lee was a little angry with what Yuan said, which he thought was very childish. Lee also took out the knife, and Lee said he would not let his lover die. He wanted to touch his lover's sweet and soft lips again, and did not want to touch the dead lump of flesh. Lee also could not accept Yuan's request, because the only option was to win this game. But Yuan says there is no game without system errors. Live or die, lose or win. Is it true that there is no other choice? Hearing that Lee was a little surprised, Lee also said, you mean you will find fault in this game? Or do you mean you'll find a way out? Yuan also confirmed Lee's words, but Lee laughed and said that Yuan was daydreaming. They could never run away from this game. To finish this game is easy, namely by killing one of you. Hearing that, Yuan smiles and says he also wants to be like that, but he is looking for uncritical options like killing each other. But Lee shows something. He directly cuts his hand with his knife. Seeing that, Yuan was surprised because Lee's wound immediately healed. Lee also said that one of the rules in this game is that they must injure each other, or rather kill each other. They can't even kill themselves. Do you think this is something a human is capable of? You think you can fight it? We are chess pieces in this bloody chess. Do you insist on that naive delusion of yours? Said Lee. Yes, I insist, Ning Yuan replied casually. Hearing that Lee got an idea and invited Yuan to a rock climbing competition, if he lost, then he would tell all the information about this game to Yuan, everything. Yuan can also back out in this race now, but if Yuan loses, then Lee will kill him. Yuan just smiled and said, okay, let's finish. After that, a little bit of Lee's past with his girlfriend Zhuan is shown. There Zhuan fell asleep sweetly, and Lee looked at him with affection. Zhuan also said that he was afraid that Lee would not like him anymore, but Lee replied that Zhuan would always be the love of his life. After that, we return to the present. Yuan and Lee are ready to compete in rock climbing. They both start rock climbing. Lee was very serious and took the lead while New Yuan immediately fell down. Seeing that Lee was sure that Yuan was just a beginner, but Yuan did not give up so easily, he immediately got up and started climbing again. Yuan also started to catch up with Lee because in this rock climbing competition, there are no special rules. Lee also stepped on Yuan's arm, but Yuan was still able to climb up as if he didn't feel the pain. Seeing that, Lee was surprised. How come Ning Yuan cannot feel any pain at all, when for a rock climber the hand is the main point? After that, Lee took hold of the rope and swung and attacked Ning Yuan by kicking him. But Yuan let go of his grip and dodged Lee's kick by dropping himself. Lee is almost at the top of the cliff and almost wins his bet with Yuan. But suddenly it turned out that Yuan had tied the rope around Lee's feet. Yuan smiled, then Yuan pulled him, making Lee fall. When he fell, he had time to remember that his girlfriend was wearing a wedding dress, and they promised that after graduating from college, they would get married. When he fell, Lee was impaled by a rock-climbing glass, and Yuan approached him and said, "You're stabbed in the right chest doesn't mean you won't die. Now I'll win by just climbing all the way to the peak, right?" Yuan said. After that, he moved to where his girlfriend Lee was. And it turned out that his girlfriend Lee had made an appointment with Anne on the roof of the building where Xiao Xiao had jumped to kill himself. Then her boyfriend Lee says that their guy is fighting for their safety. Long story short, they discussed their respective boyfriends, which didn't really matter, because this was just girls' chatter. After that, at Yuan and Lee's place, Yuan climbed a cliff to win the bet and get information about the KML game. Seeing Yuan climbing, Lee got up and pulled out the glass that had stuck in his body and threw it at Yuan, but unfortunately it didn't hit Yuan. And in the end, Yuan made it to the top of the cliff and won the bet. After that, Yuan came out of the rock climbing gym. There were Ron and her boyfriend Lee. Yuan asks why Ron is here. Then Ron replies he is here with his girlfriend Lee, and she says that he is Zhuan. Realizing Zhuan is Lee's girlfriend, Yuan says that Lee is fine and has just been to the hospital. Hearing that, his girlfriend Lee left. Then Yuan asked Ron why Ron could be with her boyfriend Lee, and replied that her boyfriend Lee had asked her to meet and talk about her sadness. Then Yuan explained that he got 3 major points in this KML game from Lee. The first point how we enter this game is not clear, but this game is generally aimed at lovers, and then a symbol appears on the couple's neck at a certain time. The second point of this game has a distance rule. If we get close and pass a certain limit, then one of us will be cut into pieces. In my opinion, the limit of distance is 4 meters, said Yuan. Then the third point, besides the distance rule, participants will get KML game notifications to get a chance to kill other participants. The winner will live, and the loser will die. The winner also gets a prize from the game. Then you can't get out of this game, said Ran. According to Yuan, this game has a strange, mysterious power. According to Yuan, why did Lee's girlfriend meet Ran but didn't kill her? There must be something behind it. The best choice should be killing. Hearing that Ran was shocked, then Ran saw Yuan's face, which did not usually show such a terrible expression. Then Yuan continued to say that even though he didn't understand human emotions, whether it was for his lover or for himself, when Zhuan met Ran and didn't try to do anything to Ran, according to Yuan, it was very abnormal, Yuan said while putting on a scary face. Hearing that, Ran just silently bowed. After that, the two of them, Yuan and Ran, returned to their respective homes. Long story short, Yuan sleeps and dreams. In his dream, he is met by a very large arm. He says he is amazed by Yuan's behavior in the KML game, and gives him an X mark, which he says is a sign of glory. After that, Yuan woke up from his sleep, and noticed an X mark on his chest. While muttering, it turns out this is not an ordinary dream. Then Yuan calls Ran and wants to explain something, but Ran complains why Yuan called her so early. Hearing Ran's complaint, Yuan realized that Ran's mood had started to improve because, according to Yuan, Ran had previously shown an expression he had never seen, and wanted to take a picture of it. But unfortunately, he couldn't at that time. After that, Ran told Yuan that she had a dream of a monster that looked like a jellyfish. The jellyfish said that she was a god in the KML game. Hearing that, Yuan was surprised and realized that Ran and himself had a dream about a monster claiming to be a god. Maybe what surprised Yuan was that the monsters in their dreams were different. In Yuan's dream, the monsters he saw were just big arms, while Ran was like a jellyfish. Meanwhile, at the hospital, there is Lee, who seems to have recovered from the wound he got from the rock climbing competition with Yuan earlier. Lee also received a message from his girlfriend, Zhuan. He asked how Lee was. Afterwards, Zhuan orders Lee to eliminate Ning Yuan immediately, but Lee tells Zhuan he is not sure he can eliminate Yuan. This time, don't be fussy, we have no other choice. After that, Lee asked the nurse to make a permit to go home because he had recovered. In another place, Yuan is shown analyzing the events that have been experienced so far on a blackboard. In essence, Yuan still has too little information about KML, so he must continue playing to understand all of this better. Then Yuan planned something. It turned out that Lee was already near Yuan's apartment, but suddenly someone called Lee, and it turned out to be Yuan. Yuan notices Lee's arrival because he has put a tracker on Lee. Yuan waved his hand at Lee and invited him to meet at a place. Before meeting Lee, Yuan also contacted Ran and asked for something to help Ran. After that, Yuan and Lee met at the pedestrian bridge. Lee also said Yuan asked him out, apparently not to kill him. "Can't we live peacefully with each other in this KML game?" said Yuan. "Life with peace?" "Yes, I'm actually curious why you know I came to you." Ask Lee. "Actually, I put a tracker on you. You know, I'm a very careful person," Yuan answered. Hearing Wen's answer, Lee realizes Yuan seems to be more veteran than him in this game. Lee also said that Yuan should not feel sorry for each other, because he is also a coward and does not know who made this game, be it a god or a devil. But Lee is aware that there is no escape except to accept this game. Meanwhile, it is shown Ran and Zhuan getting into a taxi. According to Lee, there is nothing wrong and right because he has killed many people. In this game, it might be easier to die than this, said Lee at length. Hearing the conversation further, Yuan could barely understand what he was talking about, but Yuan understood the reason why Lee wanted to kill him. "So I hope you will also understand that I don't want to fail this game and die. Goodbye, Li Xin," Yuan said. Then we are shown a taxi passing under Lee, who is on a pedestrian bridge. Meanwhile, in the taxi, Zhuan notices a notification. He also realizes that Lee will be cut into pieces. Ran was confused by Zhuan's behavior. Zhuan was angry with Ran because he was involved in Yuan and Ran's plan. Zhuan forced a taxi stop and went out to approach his lover. Ron immediately realized that before the incident, Yuan had contacted her asking for help to take Lee's lover to a coffee shop that had just opened because Ning Yuan had booked a place for them. Yuan also advised Ran to take a taxi there, while Yuan would invite Lee to talk while coaxing her. After that, he returned to Lee and Yuan's place. Lee also used the game reward to exchange. Immediately, Lee's body returned to its original state, which was almost dismembered. Lee also suspected that the taxi that passed earlier had his girlfriend inside. Lee also realized that all of this was Yuan's plan. "Forget all that, even though I don't want to say it, but I have to say it, thank you," said Lee to Yuan. Yuan was surprised to hear that. After that, Lee also told about himself, who used to be a very naughty child, but after meeting Xuan he changed and experienced various types of happiness. Lee felt happiness would continue forever, but after they entered the KML game, their lives changed. At that time, Xuan was attacked by a man who had a wound on his face, and Lee was unable to help him due to the distance in the rules of the game. The man injured Xuan's face as well as his mentality. From then on, Xuan turned into a body without a soul. But this good thing was over, Lee said. Then Lee said about the game reward that don't use all of it if Yuan gets it later, because according to Lee, the reward can delay death for 3 hours, and Lee just used his last remaining 30 minutes. Lee also asked Yuan for help if Yuan met a man who had a wound on his face. "Please kill him," Yuan replied. "If he comes to me, then I will do it." Hearing that, Lee was thanked again, and wanted to go meet his girlfriend for the last time. "I hope everything will go well for you," while leaving Yuan. Meanwhile, Xuantenga ran to meet Lee. Then he was about to fall down, but suddenly Lee came to save him, saying, "Don't be careless, you have to learn to take better care of yourself." Seeing that Lee seemed fine, Xuan was crying, saying, "Nothing bad happened to you, right?" Lee immediately hugged Xuan. "Stop crying." Then Lee kissed Xuan one last time. After that, the symbol on Lee's neck also emitted light, and in the end Lee was chopped into pieces. Seeing that Xuan cried uncontrollably. Seeing Xuan crying, Yuan took a picture casually. Then Ran approached Yuan and asked, "Did you plan all this to happen, Ning Yuan?" After that, the ambulance came, and many people came to see. A notification appeared. "Congratulations on completing the first hunting mode successfully. Ran and Yuan also won 3 death bridges, allowing them to be together at that time. The time can also be separated into half an hour. Enjoy your quality time. Resting mode is open." Meanwhile, Ran was on a beach, muttering about the time prize she got. Was it used for watching a movie or dinner? But, according to Ran, what she got had to sacrifice 1 person's life. Not even 2 people. Shown Xuan, who seemed unable to live or die. Then Ran said, "What will we become in the future, Ning Yuan?" A few days later at a hospital, Ran seemed to want to visit someone. She also confessed that she was her friend to the nurse there. It turned out that there was Yu Xiao lying in a coma. Ran also said that it was Yu Xiao who got them into this game and experienced many things. Even though they didn't know her at all. Even Yu Xiao sacrificed her life just for that. Even though Ran and Yuan had known each other since they were little. And what was Yu Xiao's relationship? With Yuan, I have to find out the reasons and answers. Ran opened the cupboard that was there. She found a box. Inside were Yu Xiao's belongings. And there was her cell phone too. Moved to a building. There was someone who was analyzing something. There was also a lot of paper on his desk that said, "Kill my love." That person said, "Enter the KML room." While in the men's room, it was as if the system was welcoming. The system also said, "Welcome, head manager." Then this unknown person asked the system to show the results of the game report. We are also shown the results. It turns out that this KML game has entered the 13th round. There were 24 teams participating. 48 people killed 30 people and 10 teams won 16 people. There are 3 teams with the highest scores. The first ranked team gets 3 points. The second and third teams get 2 points. The manager was surprised that the team that got first place was a new team, and that team was Ning Wen and Ran. Seeing that the chief manager realized that it was Ning Wen, he smiled and said, "So that's you, Ning Wen? Your enemy is too weak or you are too strong. I can't wait for this." After that, at Ning Yuan's place, it seemed Yuan was asleep, but suddenly someone knocked on the door. Yuan looked at his device. Yuan thought it wasn't Ran. He carefully opened the door, and to Yuan's surprise, it was Ran. Ran also muttered why Yuan was taking so long to open the door. After that, Ran entered and saw that there was a photo of Zhuan who was crying on the wall of the door. Seeing that, Ran was a little annoyed. Then Ran gave a gift of shoes, which he said while on the road he saw and bought them. Yuan was grateful for the gift. Then Yuan asked Ran whether Ran used the time point prize. Ran said yes. Ning Yuan thought that Ran would have something to tell him here, but Ran said nothing. I just wanted to see you. Is it not allowed? After that, Ran told Yuan to sit beside her. Then Ran asked Yuan to join hands. Ran also said, Did Yuan feel the warmth? Hearing that, Yuan said, Is it going to be okay? Is Ran on her period? Ran immediately hit him. Then Yuan continued seriously. According to human behavior, human personality will not change gradually over time. Is it because the KML made you insecure and anxious? Asked Yuan. Then Ran replied that she was afraid. Her fear was not because of death, because she is a child of biology. She realized that death and the birth of a human being are normal. What she was afraid of was that this KML game did not care about life and the precious feelings between each person. Everything feels pointless in this game. For example, the innocent becomes a serial killer, and Zhuan becomes insane compared to life without Li. This is something more terrible than death. This is despair, he said. Ran also realized she couldn't get out of this game, but she wished to die as usual. Ran said, If one day I somehow change by this game, then kill me. Let me die like I used to be. Please understand my feelings. I really want to see you beside me. Even just for a moment, said Ran while crying. Ning Yuan also understood what Ran meant. Yuan said that it was okay to use the time points reward they got. Then Yuan took Ran for a trip. After that, the two of them were in an amusement ride. Yuan and Ran also played a lot of rides. There, Ran thought she was very happy to be taken for a walk while playing, even though Yuan was an emotionless person, like a person without feelings. Then Ran wanted to buy something and told Yuan to wait for her. Before Ran left, she saw a balloon seller. She bought it and gave it to Yuan while saying, Be a good boy, huh? Wait for me here. I'll be right back. After that, Ran came back and wanted to approach Ning Yuan. But Ran saw Ning Yuan being greeted by a small child who also brought a balloon. Yuan smiled at the little boy. Then Ran gave Yuan a drink. Seeing Ran bringing ice cream, Yuan also remembers his past when his mother gave him an ice cream. Yuan suddenly eats Ran's ice cream. Seeing this incident, Ran blushed even more. After that, Yuan took Ran for a walk again, but suddenly a notification sounded. Congratulations, the participants of the new round of Kill My Love will start soon. Let's find the truth between love and death. The 14th chapter of the game, My Love, begins. Meanwhile, at the swimming gymnasium, there was a swimming championship going on. People were chanting Zhao Jun's name a lot, especially among the girls. Long story short, Zhao Jun won the swimming championship. There it was also seen that someone saw him. Then he left the swimming championship place together with his senior, but his senior secretly took a photo of him from behind. Suddenly that person immediately finished off his senior. After that, at Jun's place, who was being called by someone, it turned out that Jun was also a KML participant, because he also had the KML symbol on his neck. On the phone, Jun said that he just received a notification about a new chapter from KML. It seems Jun was talking to his partner. His partner replied that don't worry because of him. Jun also said that he was a little scared, but even so he will do his best without regrets. I love you, Zizi. Being shown Ning Yuan's past when she was young, there was her mother who was sick. Her mother said that she could not accompany Yuan any longer. Even her mother knew that in Yuan's mind life and death were the same, but she hoped that Ning Yuan would live on, and that one day Yuan would experience happiness. Ning Yuan also heard what his mother said with an emotionless face. After that, his mother died. Because Yuan remembered his mother's words, he had to stay alive. He ate a piece of bread. But suddenly his relatives came to see Yuan, who could still eat even in front of his dead mother. The relative was annoyed and beat Yuan to a pulp, but Yuan still remembered his mother's words that Ning Yuan should live. Back to the present. In the campus library there is Ran, who is reading a book, but suddenly the lecturer greets Ran. Long story short, Ran asked her lecturer about whether humans could see something that wasn't real. The lecturer answered that it was possible, for example, magic games controlling illusions and tricks to deceive the human senses. In fact, the 5 human senses are very easy to deceive. Three-dimensional films and virtual reality glasses are proof that can deceive our eyes. Conditions can be affected in this way to stimulate our sense of sight, and in the end, it becomes an illusion to our eyes. For example, again, we also like to be affected when using drugs. Hearing the lecturer's explanation, Ron thought whether what he saw about the jellyfish monster was an illusion. Suddenly, a notification says the participants of the 14th round will start soon. Please go to the destination to be notified. There are rules for this round. First, 2 groups of 4 people each. Both biographies of each participant are closed respectively, so you guys have to check their own bio. Thirdly, hurting others is acceptable in this round, but it is forbidden to treat it. Fourth, to win this round, the conditions are kill all members of the opposing team. Please reach the destination within 2 hours. The countdown starts. After that, Ran and Yuen were already at the place where the KML game had been determined. Ran and Yuen spoke by phone, and it seemed that the two of them had planned something. But the problem was that there were many civilians there. Yuen also realized that other participants must have felt the same way. We have to be able to differentiate KML participants. Now, we just hope that we are lucky. The countdown is over, and the game is about to begin. Ran and Yuen started to move. Surprisingly, there were many civilians holding hot air balloons. Yuen discussed with Ran over the phone. According to Yuen, whoever recognizes the KML participants first will easily protect teammates and finish off opponents, of course. And others thinking the same thing. First come, first serve. After that, someone pressed a button and there was an explosion on the balloon held by the civilians. Seeing that Ran and Yuen were shocked, the exploding hot air balloon also made it short of breath. But Ning Yuen did not feel the things that civilians felt. Likewise with Ran. Then Ran saw a child who was crying and helped him. But Yuen said on the phone that Ran should do as civilians do. The point is pretending to be short of breath too, because this is one of the tricks of the enemy. But Ran can't hear Yuen's explanation. Suddenly, someone wearing a clown outfit appears and attacks Ran with a knife. But swiftly, Yuen comes and protects Ran, and instead Yuen can injure his leg. The clown said, "So you use the gift of time, huh? Looks like you're the one who will lose suddenly." An arrow shot into Ning Yuen's chest. "The winner has been decided. Go to the beginner's hell." From afar, someone was holding a bow, looking like the clown's partner. He also said, "Too weak, I didn't think that even this time we were facing more boring rookies." Meanwhile, Yuen is seriously injured and makes people angry. The clown wants to run away. Ran also wants to kill the clown, but is prevented by Ning Yuen. According to Yuen, there is no point in killing the clown because there is still the archer. The more important thing is, we have to avoid the archer's attack, said Yuen. Yuen also realized that this time, it was his fault for not knowing the enemy's tricks earlier, and the enemy has the upper hand this time. All we have to do is escape from here. After that, Ran saw a doctor and wanted to ask for help treating Yuen's wound. But the doctor didn't even listen to them. Ning Yuen also said it was useless to ask for help, because KML would not let anyone interfere in our game. Participants are like animals trapped in the animal area. Killing yourself is the only way out of this situation. Yuen was starting to get dizzy from the loss of blood. Then Yuen continued to say that this is the perfect place for archers to target prey. So we should run away in this crowd and hide. Hearing this, Ran realized that he would put civilians in danger. But Yuen said their lives were their responsibility, and Yuen started walking in the crowd. From a distance, the archer stalked and found Ran and Yuen. He immediately shot his arrow, but it hit civilians. Seeing that Ran and Yuen realized that for the cold-blooded KML participants, he didn't care about someone's life. What they were concerned about was winning the game, and they were just like monsters. Many civilians were hit by arrows. It was clear that Ran and Yuen, the archers, said, "All your shields are gone." The archer released his arrows, but Ning Yuen was able to avoid them. The arrows flew more and more, but Yuen and Ran easily avoided them, as if they could read their movements. Seeing that the archer was shocked, he realized that Ning Yuen could predict the trajectory of the arrow he released. Now the game would be exciting, he said. Meanwhile, Ran and Yuen had taken shelter in a staircase, but Ran wanted to take Yuen to the hospital as soon as possible. Yuen also said that the enemy team already knows our identity, but we don't know the enemy's identity. Our only hope is the clown that I injured. We have to survive and bet that his partner, the archer, comes out to save him. I'm sure they are lovers. It's impossible to let him die. Ron still wanted to take Yuan to the hospital as soon as possible, because Ning Yuan lost a lot of blood. But Yuan said this is our chance to turn things around. Did you see someone coming? Yuan asked Ron. Then we were shown the clown crawling. Suddenly Ran saw a car coming toward the clown. Yuan also asked if Ron could see his face. Ron replied that she could not see clearly because it was so far away. Yuan also took out his device and took a photo. It should have been the archer, he said. Yuan also saw the archer's earrings, but Ning Yuan's consciousness started to disappear. Now you can take me to the hospital, Yuan said while fainting. Meanwhile in the car, the clown asked his partner why he was late saving him. He replied that the opponents this time were not easy to deal with even though they were just beginners. Moreover, that man he could injure you. Instead of killing you, he could calculate and avoid children. My arrows? What's more terrifying is that he didn't leave the plaza even after I wounded him. Instead, he waited for me to appear. He's the type of person who will do his best to take every chance he can get to defeat his enemy, even if it puts him in danger. That kind of person is the most terrifying, Zhao Jun. We have to get rid of him as soon as possible, otherwise something worse will happen in the future, said the archer, explaining at length. And here we also know the identity of the clown is Zhao Jun, the athlete swimming, while the archer named Zi Qi. After that, in an alley, there was a man who was dragging the girl he had killed. Apparently, they were also KML participants. There was also a man who was asking to be rescued because that person had killed his girlfriend, so he asked to be let go. But the man who turned out to be the man who had a wound on his face said, "So you're the one who smells bad, and the cowardly type of man, a man like you doesn't deserve to be saved." The man with the wound on his face instantly finished him off. After that, Sin was in Yuan's place, who was dreaming about his mother. Then he woke up and realized he was unconscious for an hour and a half in the hospital. Yuan also bet that his enemy had made a plan while he was unconscious, but suddenly footsteps approached Yuan's room, and a shadow in front of the door was seen. Yuan began to be alert, and it turned out to be Ran. Ran also asked how he was, because according to the doctor, Yuan's wound was very deep, but Yuan asked them to get out of this hospital room immediately. Meanwhile, we are shown Jun, who is already in the hospital, and there is also a man asking the nurse where Ning Yuan's room is. Long story short, the man got it, saying it's time for us to end this game. They started their plan. Jun was already at Yuan's door, but Jun didn't see Yuan and Ran. He said he called the man earlier. The man also said to continue with the plan because if Yuan is successful, we finish off, then Ran is of no use anymore. After that, Jun immediately threw a bottle bomb on the bed, which he thought was Yuan, and there was an explosion creating panic in the entire hospital. Meanwhile, outside, a man who had previously contacted Juntenga noticed the incident. Meanwhile, Yuan seemed to be fine. Yuan had guessed that Jun and his partner will attack him after knowing his identity. Meanwhile, Ran started the plan that Yuan had devised. Ran seems annoyed with Yuan's request. Although annoyed, she still does it. That's how it is when you fall in love. Ran also entered the CCTV room. There she was asked by the guard. Ran also pointed out that someone was there. The guard looked, and immediately Ran hit him and knocked him unconscious while Ran apologized. Long story short, Ran hacked the CCTV there. After that, Jun heard that there were no victims to the explosion that was happening. Jun was shocked and thought that Yuan and Ran had run away, but his partner Jun said that he had been standing outside for a long time watching. There was no trace of them. "Let's get out of here first, Zhao Jun." He also thought that Yuan's wound that was hit by the arrow hit his lung, and it took a long time to rest compared to the wound that Jun got. Then he also deduced that Yuan had predicted their arrival and ran away for safety. But is it true only for that reason? Did they do something? I feel like I missed something. But who definitely wants to know our identities? Meanwhile, in a hotel there, Yuan and Ran are keeping their distance. They also checked the CCTV footage they were getting. Yuan also thought the archer was very wise and never showed up. Their only clue was the clown. But according to Ning Yuan, if they could find the clown's identity, the archer's identity would also be revealed. Then Yuan realized that only this man entered the ER. Yuan also asked Ran to find out his identity, but said it was not necessary because he would find out who he was. Ran also explained that he is a very famous person on our campus named Zhao Jun, a third-year student majoring in international trade. He is also one of the best swimmers in our campus. He has also won many trophies after several years. A handsome man and polite, who has many fans in our campus. But there's only one problem: in 3 years in our university, he has never once had a girlfriend. Hearing that, Yuan was surprised, because how could someone as famous as him not have a partner? After that, in a cafe, there was Jun, who was talking about Yuan and Ran, who were not in the hospital. Where were they hiding? Long story short, Jun said, "How many time points we have? Can we use this time? It's killing me without
You by my side. Don't you also want to hug me, Ziqi?" Jun said. We are also shown the figure of Ziqi, who is very handsome. And we also know why Zhao Jun has not had a girlfriend for 3 years. Because it turns out that Zhao Jun is actually dating Ziqi, who is a man. After that, Ziqi said that we can't use time points unless we are really pressed. But don't worry, after winning this game, you can do whatever you want, Ziqi said.
After that, we were shown Ran and Yuan's past when they were little. There was Yuan, who was injured due to being bullied by a classmate. Seeing that little Ran did not stay silent and was going to deal with the person who bullied Ning Yuan. But Yuan said he was okay because Yun did not feel pain or sadness when Yuan was bullied. Ran treats it, even though it's two different things. But according to Yuan, it's the same. So don't worry about me anymore. Chen and Ran, said Yuan. Hearing that Ran also said pain, sadness, joy, and happiness, everything I will teach you, so don't say things like that again. After that, Juntenga calls Ziqi. They also plan something to get Ran and Yuan out of hiding. Ziqi suspects that Ran and Yuan already know Jun's identity and use it to reveal his identity. Meanwhile, at the hotel where Ran and Yuan are hiding, they also find out about Jun and find no photos with a girl who can be suspected as their partner. Ran also asked if Ning Yuan was sure that the clown was Jun. Yuan replied that KML is a game aimed at partners, whereas you and I are a special case. Based on the information we got, Zhao Jun is the only possibility. But from your information, he doesn't have a partner. If we don't confirm it soon, we will die. Hearing that Ran said was Ning Yuan exaggerating, but Yuan said, "Did you guys forget about the rules in this round?" The main difference from the previous round was that the winner had to kill all of them. While in the previous round, even though the enemy knew our identity, only one person was killed in the game. This time it was different in that the rules had to kill everyone. Now our identity is revealed while the other partner is still unknown. They can easily find, map, and hunt us. That means anyone around us is suspicious and can make moves on us at any time. Right now we're both like birds trapped in a nest, waiting to die. If Zhao Jun wasn't a player of this game, it would mean this round was a stalemate, Ning Yuan said as he made a nervous expression. Seeing that, Ran didn't expect Ning Yuan to have a nervous expression, and other people also know that actually Yuan has never felt anything. Is this a subconscious reaction after knowing that death is near? Ran thought. Then Ran told Yuan that, "Don't worry and put on a face like that." Ran was then going to go buy something to feed. Ran told Yuan to rest. After that, in a park, there was Jun sitting and carrying out the plan that Ziqi had drawn up. But suddenly Ran appeared, holding a knife at Jun's neck. Ran also said Zhao Junwei came here to confirm something. Hearing a girl's voice, Jun confirmed that it was Chen and Ran. "What do you want to make sure? Why don't you start by lowering the knife and chatting casually," said Jun. Ran also said that Jun didn't need to say the answer. "Ran wanted Zhao Jun to just give your life here," said Ran. Meanwhile, from a distance, there is Ziqi watching. He didn't expect Ran to show up, and he also suspects whether Yuan sacrificed Ran just to reveal their identities. Ziqi also, while beating his bow arrow at Ran. After that, Ran also said Ning Yuan was very confused. "Now he can't tell if you are the clown. I don't care whether it's you or not. The only thing I care about is after I kill you and Ning Yuan will have a clearer mind," Ran said. Hearing that, Jun said whether Ran was crazy, but Ran continued to say that the world has things to protect. While Ran was about to slit Jun's throat, Jun immediately shouted loudly, "Shoot him! He's really going to kill me!" Arrows shot about Ran, but Ran Mala smiled as he called and said, "Ning Yuan, you are right. Zhao Jun is really the clown." Seeing that Jun said what's the use of them knowing because now Ran will die and tomorrow Yuan will follow. But Ran said, "I don't think so. Even Ning Yuan can win this game alone, and the ones standing at the end are not you guys." "Enough with your boasting," said Jun. When Jun took his staff to strike Ran, meanwhile Ziqi was also getting ready to release his arrows. Then the stick and arrows shot towards Ran, but Ran was able to avoid their sticks and arrows. After that, Ran said that you of course choose a good place to kill me, but in fact these trees became my defense. Based on the direction of the arrows, your archer partner should be at 6 o'clock from the tree behind me. Hey, you who has arrows. Ning Yuan told me that you are someone with high intelligence. But the term intelligence isn't quite right. It should be cold-blooded and arrogant, Ran said to Ziqi, who was hiding. Hearing that Ziqi was furious and couldn't do anything about it, Ran also feels sorry for Jun that her partner cares more about himself than Jun because Jun's partner doesn't want to show himself. Ran also wanted to go and told Jun to get a lot of rest because he saw his current situation. But suddenly Ran saw Jun's bag on the bench. Ran thought that if she got the bag, then the identity of the archer would be known. Ran did not waste the opportunity. He ran to get it, and Ran managed to take her bag. But unfortunately, Ran was hit by many arrows and fell. Jun approaches, Ran saying that Ran's destiny is very strong and mighty, but Ziqi suddenly says, "Don't kill her first. Play around for a while and get information about Ning Yuan." In short, Jun tortures Ran, but Ran endures Jun's torment and doesn't say a word about Yuan.